During this time, Manhattan has been put into rebuilding. With the power of the whole city, it should be possible to restore Manhattan to a new level within half a month. However, apart from Manhattan, other urban areas have also been affected to some extent, so today all the 5 major districts of New York are on holiday for half a month, and they are collectively engaged in reconstruction. In addition, a global conference will be held in the near future. Su Zaicheng yawned. After 3 days of sleep, the spirit has recovered 7 or 88. Host. Su Zaicheng Physical Fitness, 175 Hunter Level, C. Ability. King Kong's Indestructible Body LV.5, Replica Eyes LV.3, Absolute Hit LV.3, Hawkeye vs. .3, Mind Control LV.3, Shadow Concealment LV.3, Mind Reading, Danger Perception Self-Healing. Equipment. Hunter Suit, +1, Elemental Bow, +1/5, White Snake Bow, +5, Tracking Paper Crane, 4. Mall Balance. 13.985 billion. The balance of the mall is a full 13.985 billion. There was a hint of a smile on the corner of Su Zaicheng's mouth. If you have money, spend it. First of all, get a little bit of physique. Advertisement. Although the physique of 175 looks very strong, it is still not enough in the Marvel world. Don't look at 175, which is 175 times that of ordinary people. It sounds very powerful, but in fact it is just like that. With 100 kilograms, a physique of 175 is only a few tens of tons of strength, which can't even compare with the little Spider-Man in the later stage. Or a little more, the body is the capital of making money. At present, 175 needs 10 million to improve a little physical fitness. Su Zaicheng was rich and powerful, directly increased his physique by 25 points, spent 25 million, and piled up his physique to 200. Definitely, it's not enough. His goal is 300 physique. After the physique point reached 200, there was a qualitative change, and every 1 point increase required 50 million. A full 5 times the leap is a bit exaggerated. Points to 250, a total cost of 2.5 billion, plus the previous 25 million, just to increase the constitution to 250, a total of 2.525 billion has been removed. Grandpa doesn't feel bad. The corners of Su Zaicheng's eyes trembled slightly. Damn it, it really costs more and more money for physique now. 250 to increase a little actually needs a full 100 million. Su Zaicheng thought about it carefully, and decided to put it aside for the time being, and wait until the end to raise it, so as not to raise the physique to 300, and there is no money to improve other things. In addition to physical fitness, what Su Zaicheng lacked the most was spiritual power, and a calendar to restore it. Meditation. Priced at ***, it can restore mental power in a short time. The meditation technique, which sells for 1 billion, is used to restore mental power. This thing is the skill in the fantasy novel. It can't increase the upper limit of mental power, it can only be used to restore. Advertisement 1 billion, that's just 10 points of physique. Su Zaicheng had such a hypnotic ability in his heart, so he directly purchased the meditation technique. In an instant, Su Zaicheng's originally sluggish spirit immediately returned to perfection and became extremely comfortable, as if a clear stream of water swept across the spiritual field. But now, his skill bar is full, but it is a pity that there is no sign that can be upgraded. Is it really necessary to spend tens of billions to upgrade to a B-level hunter? Su Zaicheng is a bit annoyed. Upgrading to a level will increase the experience by 100 times and 100 times. Does it cost trillions to level up to a level? P-dollar level is something that cannot be measured by Earth money? Shaking his head, he threw out the strange thoughts in his head. Su Zaicheng clicked on the skill bar. Find a skill. Mind Control LV.3. This is the only skill he possesses that can improve mental power. Now that he has a skill that can restore mental power like meditation, raising the upper limit of mental power is the first problem he needs to overcome at present. Walking around in the mall, is there any ability in this regard? The skill of mind control can also improve mental power, but it is very limited. For example, if Su Zaicheng has raised his mind control to IV.4 now, then his mental power will only be raised to IV.4 without any fluctuations. After all, this is a skill, not a skill. Just like fighting technique, if you don't have a matching body, you can only exert a little bit of its power. Let's take a very simple example. Can you use skills without mana? The system is already considered humanized, and while improving the skills, it can also improve its own specifications to the point where it can barely use the skills. Advertisement. It looks okay now, but this is only the early stage. Once it reaches the later stage, the span will become larger and larger. If you only needed to use this skill before, then forget it. But now using magic also requires mental strength. This increase is obviously not enough. Therefore, Su Zaicheng is considering whether to buy a spiritual ability, which is the kind that is specially designed to improve mental power, without other fancy things, to assist mind control and magic. Spiritual power increase, V.1. The price is 1 million, which can greatly increase the spiritual power. If you do not have the matching control ability, please buy it carefully. Skills complement each other. This introduction is kind of bluffing. Sure enough, skills and skills complement each other before. Su Zaicheng shook his head. He really wanted to buy it, but unfortunately there is no upgrade right now, so let's put it aside and continue to improve his own strength. It now takes 100 million to increase the physique point by 1 point. Su Zaicheng thinks that the increase to 300 is temporarily forgotten. Take a break and increase him by 25 points. Just do what you say. 25 points is 2.5 billion, spend it directly. Although it is not as good as 300 points, but 275 plus King Kong is not bad. His current body can be described in one word, that is hard. However, the hard price is also terrifying. In just a short while, Su Zaicheng has already spent 600 billion 25 million. Add in the 10% discount for C-rank hunters, equal to 5.4225 billion. Now, his attribute table and mall balance are as follows. Host. Su Zaicheng physical fitness, 275 hunter level, C. Ability. King Kong's indestructible body LV.5, replica eyes LV.3, absolute hit IV.3, Hawkeye vs. .3, mind control LV.3, shadow concealment LV.3, mind reading, dangerous perception self-healing meditation. The upper limit has been reached. Equipment. Hunter suit, +10, elemental bow, +15, white snake bow, +5, tracking paper crane, 3. Mall balance. 8.5625 billion. During this big shopping in the mall, Su Zaicheng filled up his physique again. However, he found a problem. The other skills are LV.3 and IV.5 at every turn. Isn't the strengthening of hunter suit and elemental bow a bit low? And equipment. His equipment is really too little. At present, there is only one set of clothes and a bow and arrow. If it weren't for the limited skill bar, Su Zaicheng would also like to improve himself in other aspects. Advertisement. The elemental bow and hunter suit accompanied Su Zaicheng from a garbage D-level hunter to a fairly elite C-level hunter. It would be a lie to say that 630 is not emotional. Moreover, in terms of more powerful equipment, it is not as good as these two. After all, they are all things that have been strengthened for a while. Unless the mall can provide a recovery system, Su Zaicheng will be willing to change equipment. Hunter set is currently +10. Su Zaicheng strengthened it 15 times at a time, 50 million for +10 to +15, 250 million for +15 to +20, 500 million for +20 to +25, a total of 800 million. There is also the elemental bow. Su Zaicheng also strengthened it 10 times, spending a total of 500 million. A 1.3 billion 90% discount is 1.17 billion. Balance, 7.3925 billion. After strengthening both equipments to +25, Su Zaicheng found that there was a line of characters he had always wanted to see on the hunter level that had not changed at all. The consumption of your mall as a host has exceeded 10 billion, you can upgrade your hunter level from C to B. Finally you can upgrade. Su Zaicheng excitedly clicked upgrade. Congratulations to the host for raising the hunter level to B. The skill bar has been expanded to 15. The shopping discount in the mall has also been increased from 10% to 20%. And open a new function, shopping mall recycling. Mall recycling. The equipment you don't need can be recycled to the system at a 50% discount on the original price, strengthening price is not included. 11. Advertisement. The increase in hunter level this time can be said to have a lot of benefits. There are 5 more skill columns, the discount has changed from 10% off to 20% off, and a new function in the mall has been opened. Finally, the equipment can be recycled. It's just a bit of a pitfall, and it can only be recycled to the system at a 50% discount of the original purchase price, and the strengthening doesn't count. But that's alright. After all, new functions are better than nothing. Compared to this, Su Zaicheng is now more interested in the expansion of the skill bar. With 5 more, he can buy skills without any scruples. He looked at a skill that was not fighting, but had a very high auxiliary effect on fighting. Eye of Insight. Priced at 100% asterisk, you can gain insight into the physique, skills, weaknesses, status and other information of everyone whose strength is 3 times less than your own. The Eye of Insight is priced at 5 billion. Su Zicheng bought it without hesitation. Our old Huasha has a good saying, know yourself and your enemy and you will never end in 100 battles. This insightful eye can even see into a super strong man who is 3 times his strength. With the advantage that others don't know brought by this insightful eye, even if Su Zicheng is facing an existence that is far more than 3 times his own strength, Su Zicheng may be able to kill him by surprise. Moreover, this thing changes with Su Zicheng's strength, and it can be used at any time. In the later stage, Su Zicheng might be able to see the skills of the 5 creation gods at a glance. Definitely, if you look at it now, it is probably a bunch of nothing to say. In addition, Su Zicheng also bought a knife and a skill. Advertisement, Curse Blood, Knife. The price is ***, an incomparably sharp demon knife. If it is cut by this knife, even a small wound will be infected with curse poison from the wound and die quickly. There is no way to detoxify. Curse poison strengthening with strengthening. Swordsmanship LV.1. The price is 100,000, as the name suggests. This can be regarded as a shortcoming of Su Zicheng, because he seems to have no other combat skills except for close combat and long-range bows and arrows. In the future, if you encounter some powerful characters who use swords, knives, daggers, and other cold weapons, you don't necessarily have to wear a hunter suit and use your own physical strength to resist them. It's fine if you deal with weak chickens, but in the Marvel world, how can there be any really weak chickens? Like the purple sweet potato essence in the Avengers Alliance Stanley, the big fan he held in his hand, if Su Zicheng went up and resisted a few times, he probably wouldn't die, but it definitely wouldn't be a good feeling. Taking a step back, when Su Zicheng assassinates someone in the future, would it be more handsome to pinch his head off close up and get blood all over his body, or would he swing his knife lightly, the light of the knife flashing, and the head land on the ground? There is a better way to deal with it. Why do we have to fight in close quarters? Close combat is often used when other methods are not available. And this cursed blood should be regarded as a high-quality knife in the equipment. The initial price is much more expensive than the elemental bow. One can imagine how exaggerated this thing is. Strengthening 100 or 80 times, maybe even Thanos can be cursed to death with one stab. No matter how bad it is, let him suppress the poison and cause the strength to drop or cut off the injured place, it should be no problem. As for why he acquired a swordsmanship skill when he obviously bought a knife, the root cause is actually the saying, swords and swords are not separate. As long as it is not a tiger-headed broadsword, or the kind of knife similar to the beheading in ancient times, there is basically no difference between swordsmanship and swordsmanship. The only difference is that the sword has a single edge and the sword has double edges. In short, buying sword skills is definitely better than buying sword skills. After all, both the blade and the back of a knife can be used for attacking. Even as long as the strength is strong, the back of the knife can also be used as a blade. The difference from double-edged blades is really almost zero. Swordsmanship, V.1. Upgrading to IV.2 requires 1 million. Swordsmanship LV.3. Upgrading to LV.3 requires ***. Swordsmanship LV.4. Upgrading to LV.4 requires ***. Su Zicheng has a lot of money now, and he directly upgrades his swordsmanship to IV.4, which only needs 510 to 1 million in total. Plus the 100 million for the purchase of curse blood, that is 610 minus 11 million. Oh, by the way, there are also 500 million from the Eye of Insight. 5.611 billion, a 20% discount, 4.48 billion. All of a sudden, there were only 4,082,500,000 balance left. Besides, Su Zicheng continued to do nothing but upgrade his mind control to IV.4, spending 800 million. Host. Su Zicheng Physical Fitness, 275 Hunter Level, B. Ability. King Kong Indestructible Body LV.5, Swordsmanship LV.4, Copy Eyes LV.3, Absolute Hit IV.3, Hawkeye LV.3, Mind Control LV.4, Shadow Stealth LV.3, Mind Reading Danger Perception Self-Healing Meditation, 11/15. Equipment. Hunter Suit, +2/5, Elemental Bow, +2/5, White Snake Bow, +5, Tracking Paper Crane, 3, Cursed Blood, Knife. Mall Balance. 3.2825 billion. Although 13.5 billion was spent, only 3.2 billion was left. But this time, his strength has increased a lot, and his shortcoming has been reduced. There was a smile on the corner of Su Zicheng's mouth. Damn it, it's comfortable. With a move in his mind, he took out the cursed blood. Advertisement. Cursed blood is a demon sword similar to Tang Dao, but also like katana. The length of the knife is 71 centimeters, the length of the handle is 27 centimeters. It is a knife that combines the best of both worlds. Just looking at it is enough to feel an endless energy emanating from it. Sword chi? Sword chi. The moment Su Zicheng held the cursed blood, he had never felt so good. The blessing of swordsmanship and the original power of the sword curse blood made him fascinated. Use 4 words to describe it, such as commanding with an arm. To put it bluntly, it was as if his arm had grown a lot. He played with a knife on the bed, then inserted it into the scabbard with a crack sound. A series of actions were completed in a very handsome manner, without the slightest sloppiness. Su Zicheng stretched comfortably. As for the money, he wasn't going to spend it all. There are 4 left in the skill column, and I don't plan to fill them all. There are a lot of emergency items in the system. Su Zicheng thinks he should save a little bit. In case of danger, he still has money to choose emergency skills or equipment. Otherwise, even if his current strength is in crisis, it is estimated that he is really hopeless. But Su Zicheng was just about to get up, but found something a little weird. His brows furrowed slightly. No, it's not that the advantages are weird, but it's very weird. There were knife marks on his quilt. Advertisement. Su Zicheng frowned and looked at the knife mark. His expression turned slightly cold. He can be sure that this is definitely not what he left just now. His swordsmanship has reached LV.3 anyway. How could he not realize that he cut the quilt? Has anyone been here? The corner of Su Zicheng's mouth twitched, and the coldness flashed in his eyes. Immediately turned over and got up, and started to walk towards the door. Su Zicheng seemed to be Sherlock Holmes, and began to carefully search for various cobweb horse traces on the ground and windows. First, the windows and doors were opened. Su Zicheng's memory is very strong. When he returned home to sleep, the door was not closed, but it was only half closed. He remembered the angle clearly, but when awakening came, the door was closed. Maybe it was the wind. Have to. Then there are windows. The windows have signs of being stepped on. There are knife marks on the door. After checking all the places, Su Zicheng came to the bathroom and began to brush his teeth. Those knife marks proved one thing. He guessed that those people must have cut himself with a knife, and the force they used was not ordinary, but in the end they had no choice but to leave. The only question is, who wants to kill himself and doesn't know about this house? Su Zicheng has been flirting around the earth for the past few months, and he seems to be doing something, but in fact, there are not many people who have animosity against him, or even have opinions on him. One of them was Nick Fury. However, Nick Fury is obviously impossible. This guy is a smart guy. He knows Su Zicheng's strength. If he really wants to kill him, he probably just throws a big baby over and treats him to something delicious. It's impossible to come over with a knife and try to assassinate him who can hold a missile. Isn't that an act of sand sculpture? Thinking about it. Advertisement. All the clues finally converged into 3 words in Su Zicheng's mind: hand association. Using a knife, having a grudge against oneself, not knowing much about one's own strength. There is only the madness of the hand. Damn dick. Sure enough, the mental aspect still can't be used too much. He fell into a deep sleep for 3 days at once, and ignored everything around him directly, and he would not wake up until he recovered to a certain extent. Fortunately, the ones who came this time were all weak characters. What if the ones who come next time are enough to kill him? Su Zicheng was a little scared. Then, when he was afraid, he just sneered. The hand, Mrs. Gao, Mrs. Gao. I arranged for aliens to have no time to monitor you a few days ago, and they still want to chase and kill me. He has absolutely no fear of the hand. The only helpless thing is that those crazy ninjas who came to chop themselves must have seen their own faces and reported them. Everyone is not an idiot. The person who can't be cut with a knife at this address, who else is there besides the mysterious bounty hunter? The bounty hunter's younger brother. Relative? Who will believe it? Are you about to reveal your identity? Su Zicheng was a little helpless, but also a little indifferent. Just expose it. I used to hide my identity because I didn't have enough strength to hide it, but now. The strength is enough. 10 shield tied together are not big enough for him, so what if it is exposed? Definitely. He is not afraid to reveal his identity. But it doesn't mean that if his identity is exposed, there is no need to pay the price. Definitely, Su Zicheng didn't rush to do it directly. Now is our recess time. No one can stop him from taking a good rest during this time. Unless someone else comes to make trouble. New York is being rebuilt, and it will take months. However, the holidays of schools and companies other than Manhattan are not just for nothing. It's just a symbolic release for about a week. After all, New York is a world-class city that directly affects the global economy, finance, media, politics, education, entertainment and fashion. Even the headquarters of the United Nations is located in New York City. If this kind of city really stops for a month or so, it may cause big problems. Therefore, even if you want to rest for a few more days, your superiors will not allow it. Unless it's Manhattan under reconstruction. Su Zaichang stayed at home all morning and was bored with. The TV was nothing to watch. Because almost all TV channels are broadcasting some news about New York, as well as information about upcoming global conferences. Whether it is now or ever, what Su Zaichang hates the most is watching these political news. Because it has nothing to do with him, and Bala Bala will say a bunch of nouns that he doesn't understand. As a commoner in the previous life, Su Zaichang had an idea. These are things that bother him from watching TV dramas. Su Zaichang yawned. It's noontime. He's going out for some quick lunch. Advertisement, however, by coincidence, Su Zaichang met Little Spider-Man in a fast food restaurant. Unlike Su Zaichang, after 3 days of training, Peter has recovered his vitality, and his strength has even improved a lot. Hey, Zaichang. When Peter saw Su Zaichang, his eyes lit up. I haven't seen you for a long time, and I want to ask you a question. How did you know that aliens were going to invade? This is the question Peter has always wanted to ask. Too bad I didn't find the time to ask them. I have family members in the FBI, believe it or not. Su Zaichang teased. I believe it, definitely I believe it. Peter nodded, winked and said, however, I don't want to thank you. No need thank me. Su Zaichang wondered, apart from notifying him that aliens might invade, what else could Peter thank himself for? Do you know? Peter looked around, with a sneaky look, grabbed Su Zaichang's sleeve, and said in a low voice, when I knew that the aliens had invaded, MJ was stunned and worried about me. It's almost the last kick. Do you want me to kick you? When Su Zaichang suddenly realized, he rolled his eyes and continued to tease. Hey, forget it, don't you know how worried MJ was about me at that time, looking for me everywhere? Peter waved his hand and said, why worry about you and look for you everywhere? Su Zaichang pretended to be suspicious. Where did you go? Didn't I ask you to run with them? Cough cough. Peter coughed dryly, thinking something was wrong in his heart. Just now I was only focused on sharing the progress of myself and MJ with Su Zaichang, but I forgot about it. Advertisement, no, I just went to the toilet in a hurry to urinate. Peter had no choice but to tell Su Zaichang the lie he told MJ and Ned. If you want to piss and piss on people, then you can piss enough. Su Zaichang's complaints are not over yet. Peter quickly interrupted. Okay, my fast food is packed. See you next time, bye. Saying that, Peter picked up a bag of fast food and ran away. Looking at Peter's back, Su Zaichang smiled. He definitely did it on purpose. After all, he was the one who sent Tony to take Little Spider-Man to fight aliens, just 3 days ago, can you forget? There is one thing to say, it is quite fun to tease Little Spider-Man occasionally, this kind of stupid young man. Su Zaichang was in a good mood. He ordered a grilled chicken and made another chicken roll. After eating at the fast food restaurant, he returned home to continue to be bored. However, this afternoon he discovered a game called Song Lang. The difficulty of this game is not generally high. Su Zaichang didn't understand it for a long time, it was because Wei Wei didn't shut him up all the time. In the end, I had no choice but to click on a Phil Money game and spend 18 million in it, and I felt comfortable physically and mentally when I piled myself up to the level of the first boss. Wolves? Garbage game. In the next only play Phil Money online games. Su Zaichang exhaled, glanced at the time, and found that it was already 10 o'clock in the evening. Playing the game, this time really passed by. However, after such a short period of time, Su Zaichang also enjoyed a different kind of fun. Previously, he played games that were all 3A masterpieces, and the only shortcoming was that they were basically standalone games. Now playing Phil Money online games, there are a lot of disadvantages, and the advantages are online games, and online games, social games. Each has its own fun, but Su Zaichang prefers the latter to playing games alone. Advertisement, at least you don't have to pretend to be yourself online. Unsatisfied, he turned off the computer, and Su Zaichang stretched. I'm going to go to the bar for a walk to see if I can find something sexy or something. I have been in this world for so long, I haven't even broken a place, I haven't picked up a girl, it really embarrasses the traveler to say it. However, it is a pity. Su Zaicheng did go to the bar. But that's just 2 sips of wine. Mainly because of the influence of big beauties like Gali and Natasha Romanoff. These girls who hang out in nightclubs all day long really can't arouse his desire to hook up. Let's go home. Su Zaicheng shook his head, drank the last sip of wine, paid the bill and went home. That's it. Su Zaicheng lives a life of playing games during the day and having fun at night. 7 days have passed. 3.1 The rest of New York except Manhattan has resumed operation, and the economy of New York, which was somewhat sluggish, has picked up again. The global conference will be held 3 days later, with a huge scale, global attention, and unprecedented grandeur. As for Su Zaicheng, after resting for 7 days. The 7 days were not fulfilling, but they were not boring either. However, Su Zaicheng still misses the time of fighting aliens and doing missions. Playing games in real life. How can playing games with a computer be fun? Therefore, he is also preparing to come out of the rivers and lakes again. The first thing to do when you come back out of the rivers and lakes is not to do tasks. Instead, deal with things that have not been dealt with before. Otherwise, some people should think that they are easy to bully. One night after 7 days, it can't be regarded as yelling Xingxi. But there were not many people outside. It seems that because of aliens, coupled with the wanton propaganda of various religions, most people in New York now even believe that there are ghosts in this world. Therefore, at night, except for crowded places like bars, few people can be seen on the street. This is convenient. Su Zaicheng. At home, put on the hunter suit. The plus 25 hunter suit is obviously completely different from the previous plus 10. 2 words. Powerful. After that, he pinned the cursed blood around his waist and placed it under the windbreaker, while still carrying the elemental bow behind his back. Sit cross-legged. Take out the tracking paper crane in the hunter space. With a bit of mental strength, I thought of Mrs. Gao's appearance in my heart. The paper crane instantly became agile and flew towards a certain direction. Most of the night passed. The paper crane has already flown over half of Midi. Su Zaicheng frowned slightly, and he glanced at his current direction. Thick richette. Is this the rhythm of going to Washaw? 28 feet's mouth twitched. It's true that Mrs. Gao often travels back and forth between Midi and Washaw. Advertisement now. It seems that this old lady should go back to Washaw. Su Zaicheng shook his head, forcibly cut off the contact with the paper crane tracking. Have nothing to do and go to Washaw to hunt down Mrs. Gao? Forget it. Someone can teach this old woman a lesson. What's more, Su Zaicheng also knows a hand from New York. At present, there are only 2 left to track the paper cranes, which must be enough. Taking out a tracking paper crane from the hunter's space, Su Zaicheng began to follow its meaning to find a person. Soon, the tracking paper crane moved across Queens. Come to Brooklyn. Finally, it stopped at a school. This school is not an ordinary school for studying, but a martial arts school. There are many martial arts equipment in it, and many weapons were even found after tracking the paper cranes. For example, katana and cross darts used by ninjas. This school is obviously not easy. Tracking paper cranes slowly dissipated and turned into dots. Su Zaicheng opened his eyes, a gleam of coldness flashed in them, put on the hood, and went to that school. The night is bright and the stars are sparse. Su Zaicheng soon came to Brooklyn. Speaking of which, this is his first time in Brooklyn. Coming to the Marvel world for so long, either Queens or Manhattan. This is on the southeast side of Manhattan Island, which belongs to Brooklyn, the most populous district among the 5 boroughs of New York City, New York State. He has never been here before, and he can only read a little bit from his memory. Su Zaicheng came to a school that was not particularly eye-catching according to the place where the paper crane flew. Advertisement. Don't look at this school as inconspicuous. This is a stronghold of the hand in New York. Specially adopt all kinds of street teenagers, give them food and clothing and teach martial arts. Sounds good, right? But the real purpose is to train teenagers living on the streets to become secret agents of the hand. Hand clubs have schools like this all over the world, which is why hand clubs send spies to various places. Why do they have spies everywhere? This school is one of the reasons. This school is not a public school, and almost all of them are teenagers living on the street, so even 7 days off are spent in school. Su Zaicheng avoided the student dormitory and came to a very inconspicuous room. He knocked lightly on the door button. There was a rustling sound from inside, as if someone was putting on clothes. Not long after, the door opened. A photocopy of a person comes into view. This is a middle-aged man with a very thick beard, dressed very casually, a black coat with a light white shirt, which is still a little wrinkled, obviously just put on the clothes. This middle-aged man is still wearing a gentleman's crutches. There doesn't seem to be anything unusual about his appearance. It can only be said that he looks a little like an uncle, but he is as dangerous as a jackal. How did you find this place? The man looked at Su Zaicheng and replied. I don't think you need to know. Su Zaicheng answered casually. The man in front of him, he definitely knew who it was. Named Botu. He is the master of Iron Fist girlfriend Colin and the administrator of this school. 5 Fingers of the Hand Association, one of the few old immortals who escaped from Kunlun, is also the most skilled swordsman among the 5. I also don't think you need to wear your hood. Advertisement. Botu shrugged his shoulders and said with a light smile. The other old fellows would never have imagined that the bounty hunter who has caused quite a stir in this world recently is actually a teenage high school student. I can already imagine that they received this news looked surprised. Much more than that can surprise you. Su Zaicheng shook his head. Knowing something is not a good thing. I definitely understand. Botu continued. But if you don't know about some things, it feels like a lump in your heart. Just like you old immortals can only survive on the keel? There was a sneering smile on the corner of Su Zaicheng's mouth. What he dislikes the most is watching the villains of 940 play tricks and put on airs in front of his eyes. Hearing this, Botu's expression froze suddenly, and there was a hint of danger in his eyes looking at Su Zaicheng, like a hungry wolf staring at the food it wanted to kill. The 5 Fingers of the Hand. In fact, they are all guys who defected from Kunlun. Also stole the Kunlun keel. Relying on the keel to survive for hundreds of years. In fact, deep in their hearts, they all know that it is just a false eternal life, and the life extended by the keel will eventually run out. However, the depths of the heart are only the depths of the heart after all. Being poked at the sore spot so suddenly, Botu, who has lived for hundreds of years and has seen a bunch of countries rise and fall, can't help but look a little ugly. He doesn't care about other things. Only this, no. How do you know? Botu asked in a deep voice. The matter of Kunlun and the keel. I can find here, so I can naturally know about you. Su Zaicheng shook his head, drew out the curse blood from his waist, and pointed directly at the apprentice bow in front of him. I have talked so much nonsense with you, just to compare swordsmanship with your swordsmanship master. I don't use other abilities, and I will compete with swordsmanship. Why did Su Zaicheng talk so much nonsense with Botu, instead of using the elemental bow or the close combat ability to arrange it clearly? Botu is a rare master of swordsmanship in the world, the one with the best swordsmanship among the 5 immortals of Hand Association. Leave him alone. I just want to try the sword ability I just bought. Can you cut this guy who has returned to the basics of swordsmanship under the sword? Although the curse blood he used was a knife. But swords do not separate families, and after hearing what Su Zaicheng said, Botu was calm on the surface, but he was overjoyed in his heart. He definitely knows how powerful Su Zaicheng is. The heart is not as calm as the surface. Su Zaicheng is definitely not something to be underestimated for being able to cause such a big storm in this messy world recently. Ability emerges endlessly in his body, and there are more than 5 kinds of abilities that have been exposed to the eyes of the world. Who knows what else is hidden underneath? But, now, Botu, who had been hanging on his heart, suddenly breathed a sigh of relief. If you don't use your powerful strength, you will directly kill the enemy with one blow, but you want to use swordsmanship to compete for strength. If it were him, he would definitely kill the enemy immediately, instead of trying to defeat the strongest aspect of the enemy here. Like in the movie? I will beat you wherever you are strong? Don't blame him for judging people by their appearance, a teenager is still too young. Can I still refuse? Botu chuckled, pulled out a long sword from the gentleman's crutch, and pointed it at Su Zaicheng. Advertisement. Unlike Su Zaicheng's cursed blood, this one is a double-edged, genuine long sword. He has absolute confidence in his sword skills. I said, why do you big villains like to hide swords in crutches? Su Zaicheng complained helplessly. Do you think you can be caught off guard? One thing to say, he always thought it was stupid to hide a sword or something in a crutch. No, it's just for convenience. Botu shook his head, staring fixedly at the sword. Don't you think it's troublesome to carry a sword with you? That's true. Su Zaicheng nodded. The two chatted without saying a word. Stalemate here. In the end, Botu couldn't help but make a move. He raised his long sword horizontally and stabbed at Su Zicheng. This is the stabbing sword, which is the most basic in swordsmanship, but as the saying goes, stabbing is the soul of the sword. If you practice more stabbing swords, you can feel the combination of reality and reality when holding the sword, and most of the strength in swordsmanship routines. It is the foundation. But the thrust of the stabbing sword is at the tip of the sword, and it is very simple and rude to use straight stabs to kill the enemy. To use one to describe it is like a green dragon coming out of water, and an immortal guiding the way. Such an ordinary move was used incisively and vividly in the hands of a swordsman like Botu, the combination of swordsmanship and hand speed. But Su Zicheng wasn't too lazy. He held the cursed blood in his hand to block sideways, and used the blade of the cursed blood to cut down. Realizing that the long sword was blocked, Botu's expression did not change at all. The incomparably powerful anti-shock force did not make him panic, but he quickly turned the sword to the side without letting go of the force. Instead, rubbing the cursed blood blade, following this force, he slashed towards Su Zicheng's feet in a sword-splitting posture. It's a long story, but it actually happened in the blink of an eye. Su Zicheng stepped back a few steps, and the two started a sword fight in this not-so-wide corridor. There is no sword energy like in the fantasy. Advertisement, just a duel of two swords, knives. Chop, pick, cut, tease. Each of the moves that looked simple, but contained flavors but were incomparably complicated was used by the two of them like arms. Although the moves were very simple individually, if they were converted into a duel. Stabbing swords, chopping swords, hanging swords, wiping swords, pointing swords. Emerge in endlessly, one after another, different from the slow dance of swords. The battle between the two is dazzling and looks extremely cool. Swordsmanship is a very cool technique. Definitely, it would be nice if the cursed blood in Su Zicheng's hand could also be exchanged for a sword. The battle has heated up. Click crap crap. Botu is a rare master of swordsmanship in the world. And Su Zicheng is a hanger with swordsmanship IV.4. The fight between the two was fierce. Definitely, to say who is better. That is naturally Su Zicheng. The clothes on Botu's body were already torn. Definitely, he's uninjured just yet. Otherwise, with the curse poison of the cursed blood, it is impossible for the little blogger to survive. But in contrast to Su Zicheng, he didn't have any damage on his body, so everyone judged. Don't get me wrong, it's not because of the hunter suit. It was because Botu had never rubbed against him from the beginning to the end, not even once. After this period of fighting, Botu became embarrassed. And Su Zicheng also looked very comfortable. As for this corridor advertisement, the surrounding walls have long been turned into sword marks and mouth marks because of the battle between the two. One by one is deep and full of sharp breath, and the sword marks and knife marks that make people dare not look directly or densely covered. Botu faced Su Zicheng with difficulty, already horrified in his heart. He never imagined that Su Zicheng's sword skills are so high. Could it be that he, like himself, has lived for hundreds of years? And Su Zicheng, who was confronting him, almost spit out his breath. Don't forget, Su Zicheng also has mind-reading skills. Botu. Damn it, this guy must have lived for hundreds of years like me, otherwise, how could his swordsmanship be better than mine? In this regard, Su Zicheng has one word. Grandpa is really young, but who told Grandpa to be a coward? Botu. No, if this continues, I won't be able to hold on. I don't need other means, at least get rid of him when he only uses swordsmanship. Looking at the blogger in front of him, Su Zicheng pouted. Damn it, it really is the head of an organization like the Hand, that's insidious. However, he did not have many surprises. It has long been expected that either he or Botu will make things happen first. And bloggers. But he didn't know that his inner thoughts had already been completely read by Su Zicheng, leaving nothing behind. One of the 5 fingers of the Hand. It is also an old immortal who came out of Kunlun. Apart from swordsmanship, he didn't use one very necessary thing. That is, gas 0. Botu's chi is different from that of Danny Iron Fist. In other words, Danny originally was going to be a standard higher than him. Iron Fist Danny can attach chi to his fists, giving him inhuman strength. And Botu. Otherwise, he can only strengthen himself with a small increase, but cannot manipulate chi to attach to a certain part of the body. It's a bit like a small buff skill, doesn't look like much. But Botu's strength is very strong, this increase is very important to him. Drink. Hearing Botu's soft drink, his breathing suddenly became heavy. In the face of Su Zicheng's attack, he unexpectedly became more comfortable, and even found an opportunity to fight back. Whether it is speed, strength or reaction, there has been a huge increase. Rub. The sonic boom of the long sword piercing the air continued to sound. The swords in the hands of the two have reached the point where it is difficult to catch with the naked eye. Clang. After a slash. The two of them were 10 meters apart, and both stopped the swords in their hands. A gust of wind blows. Su Zaicheng looked at the student who was panting lightly, and said, "Tell me, what would happen if one of the 5 fingers of the hand association is missing?" Advertisement: there are 5 fingers in total. Each finger complements the other. Just like Mrs. Gao, she is in charge of money, so she has unique business all over the world. Botu is in charge of transporting talents. The other 3 roots are also in charge of very necessary fields, and they basically don't meet each other at ordinary times, and only meet each other when they use the keel to renew their lives. Even so. But they are indispensable. I don't think so. Botu stared at Su Zaicheng in front of him. Botu. Xiete. Why is he still able to do so with ease? No. I have to find a way to escape, or prevent him from smashing himself into pieces. The thoughts in Botu's mind were read out by Su Zaicheng, and he couldn't help laughing. I said, only use swordsmanship. Why don't you listen to people? Su Zaicheng lightly waved the cursed blood in his hand, and the whole person's momentum changed suddenly. Immediately, a faint blood color suddenly ignited on the cursed blood. Fencing is the same as other skills. IV.1 to IV.3 are still in the category of normal swordsmanship, peak swordsmanship. Once it reaches LV.4, it becomes supernatural. He has been using LV.3 swordsmanship from the beginning just now, so Botu can barely hold so many knives under his hands. You guys are angry with each other, and so am I. Su Zaicheng smiled, held the handle of the knife with his left hand, placed it in front of his chest, with the palm facing up, and the end of the knife in his hand. Boom. There was a hum. The blood that was originally only stained with the cursed blood instantly turned into countless swordlights and stood in midair. Botu's pupils shrank suddenly, and it was too late to find cover. Facing countless swordlights, he could barely dodge with the long sword in his hand and body skills. Botu. You are stupid. Foul. You only use swordsmanship? Advertisement reading what Botu was thinking. Su Zaicheng pointed the cursed blood knife on the ground, folded his hands and pressed the handle of the knife, with a tall and straight figure, looking straight ahead, exuding the aura of a master of swordsmanship and a big boss all over his body. Kind of like Jinping on crutches. Does Qi also belong to swordsmanship? You fouled first, then you can't blame me. His words fell into the ears of Botu, who was struggling to support him, and suddenly it was like a thunderclap, causing an uproar in his heart. Botu. What? Why did he know that I used Qi? Botu. Wait. Why does he know what I think? Botu. Could it be? He can read minds? Damn it. Botu. No, if he knows Kunlun, he must know Qi, and he will find that Qi is not a big deal. What a miscalculation. Botu's inner thoughts turned back and forth 1,000 times, and they were already close to the truth, but they were forced back by him. Although Su Zaicheng hates Botu's random thoughts, he still has to pretend that he has not read these thoughts. The mind-reading technique still needs to be hidden a little deeper before it can be effective. It was almost discovered just now. If he is discovered, the effect of his mind-reading skills may be greatly reduced. After all, it cost so much money to buy. Su Zaicheng doesn't want to put mind-reading skills aside yet. And the situation here, it also attracted the attention of the student dormitory. The students in this school are all warriors who have to pass strict examinations. He couldn't be more sensitive to the wind and grass around him. The movement of the two fighting before was not too big, and it was not limited to a duel of pure swordsmanship. But now it is different, they all use their own means. The clanging sound was endless, and it was very obvious in the silent night, so the students could naturally detect it. Moment. Alarms sounded at the school. Advertisement. The originally dark school was suddenly brightly lit. Many senior students have already picked up katana and are attacking here. The bloody knife light disappeared. Even though he knew that there were many students coming, Su Zaicheng still stood there faintly with cursed blood on his face. Just standing still gives people an indescribable pressure. Hu, on the other hand, the blogger at the other end of the corridor is completely opposite to Su Zaicheng. The clothes on his body were already tattered, and the incomparably sharp light of the knife scratched his body into many wounds. Traces of blood flowed down, and a strong smell of blood radiated out. He knelt on the ground with one knee, holding the long sword's knife in his right hand. With his left hand on the ground, he stared fixedly at Su Zaicheng, panting. The situation of the two can be described as polarized. However, there is one thing to say. It's really strong that Botu can survive until now. Also, worth mentioning. The saber sword aura just now is a derivative of swordsmanship skills, and it can also be used with ordinary knives or swords. Therefore, the characteristic of the most powerful curse poison of curse blood has not been inherited to this sword energy. Otherwise, this blogger would have died countless times. Take you as an experiment. He glanced at the students downstairs who were about to climb up. Su Zaicheng lost his patience. There was a smile on the corner of his mouth, and he held the cursed blood with his right hand. I am too lazy to continue fighting with him or playing swordsmanship. This time directly to full speed. Boom. A sonic boom sounded, and Su Zaicheng seemed to have turned into a human-shaped cannonball, sprinting towards Botu at a speed that was imperceptible to the naked eye. Botu's eyes glared angrily. Neither the head nor the body could respond. Whoosh flashed by. One moment was at this end, but the next moment Su Zaicheng seemed to be at the other end. The handsome man played a trick, sighed. Botu finally came to his senses and felt a sharp pain in his right arm. Scoff, he looked to his right hand, only to see a wound on his arm. What happened? Botu felt happy and worried. The joy is that I didn't die in this instant. Worry is why I didn't die. That's right. The blogger was just wondering, why didn't he die? With Su Zaicheng's formidable swordsmanship, it is impossible to kill him and only touch his arm. So what's going on? Is it because the speed is too fast, so there is a gap in that sword? Thoughts in Botu's mind turned back and forth, but his expression changed drastically in the next moment. Poisonous. In the wound where he was rubbed open, several extremely strange black lines crawled out of it, and quickly spread around the body indiscriminately. What? Advertisement. Botu let out a cry of pain, his right hand leaning on the long sword on the ground lost his intuition, and his whole body hit the ground headlong. Before falling down, he also saw Su Zaicheng's playful appearance. No. Sure enough, it's not slippery. Botu's inner thoughts sank again and again, and the weird curse lines on his right hand had spread all over his entire right arm. Do you want to cut off this hand to save your life? As soon as this thought came up, it was thrown out by Botu. Death is not terrible. With the keel, you can revive him. However, the keel is not omnipotent, it cannot make him broken limb reborn. As a master of swordsmanship, his hands are equivalent to everything. If he loses his hands, then his strength is equivalent to a 10% discount. Therefore, he is more inclined to die directly than to break his hand. And, there is Su Zaicheng, he is almost a mortal situation. Cutting off a hand for the sake of a certain death situation is not a good deal. Hesitating, oh no, not really hesitating, but after decisively throwing this idea out. The extremely weird black lines had already climbed up Botu's neck, and quickly spread to his heart and head. What? Unbearable pain came. Although I know that I can be resurrected, the smell of death is still so frightening. Botu bowed his waist and roared, twisting and twisting on the ground like a bug. His face was extremely hideous, and the veins on his neck were bulging. 1, 2, 3. 3 seconds later. Advertisement. The poison completely covered his heart and brain. Botu's pupils suddenly lost their light, his breathing stopped, and he was silent. Although there were so many words, it only took 3 seconds from the beginning to the end, and the curse pervaded Botu's whole body, taking the life of one of the 5 fingers of the Tangtang Hand Association. Botu. Death. This damn smell again. Botu. What kind of poison is this? Botu. Ah. Damn you, after I am resurrected, I will definitely tear you to pieces. Su Zaicheng looked at the blogger who was covered with strange black lines all over his body, and curled his lips in disdain. Resurrection? Then you will be resurrected. If it can be resurrected. The footsteps of many students have already been heard downstairs. Su Zaicheng sneaked into the shadow without hesitation and disappeared in place. After the students came, they saw their teacher Botu lying on the ground in a very strange posture, with trembling lines all over his body, dying on the ground in embarrassment. Teacher. Who is it? Come out for me. Hearing the roar behind him, Su Zaicheng shrugged indifferently. Giving your teacher a chance to be resurrected is already very good. These little fools are really in the midst of blessings and don't know how to be blessed. Do you know what happened to the last dog who wanted to be resurrected? Definitely. Why not hack Botu directly? Why not chop him into meat paste? Why not let this Botu disappear from the world completely? Instead, just use curse poison to kill Botu. There are various reasons, but it is definitely not out of kindness, nor is it because I am afraid of these young students. Su Zicheng is not a very kind person. He is so kind when he wants to kill himself, and this group of students, at most, they have been brainwashed and then practiced martial arts. Even Captain America Steve can arrange them clearly. How is it possible we'll be afraid of them? There is only one reason. That is to use Botu as an experiment. Advertisement: the power of the keel can prolong and revive Botu. What Su Zicheng wanted to see was, after he killed Botu with the curse poison of the curse blood, whether the keel could get rid of the curse poison and revive Botu. Curse poison. Curse comes first, poison follows. Su Zicheng was curious. Can the curse poison be suppressed by the keel and removed? Su Zicheng didn't know because he had never seen the keel, and he didn't have a thorough understanding of the power of the poison. However, the power of the keel is powerful, otherwise it would not be possible to revive others so unscrupulously. Even if there are sequelae, it is a real resurrection. Although the curse poison is not weak, it is still inferior to the keel. The only advantage of curse poison is probably that it is originally weird and unpredictable, and it may not be in the same system as Dragonbone. Su Zicheng estimated that it should be a 70-30 situation. 7 Dragonbones, 3 curse poisons. However, there are 3 possibilities of not being able to be resurrected, and this risk is already terrible. If the poor blogger knew that there was a 30% chance that he would not be able to be resurrected, he would never dare to gamble. Even if he cut off his arm, he would have no hesitation. Definitely, whether it is useful or not is another matter. Can the poisonous infection cut off the part in time to swim? But if he cuts it, there will definitely be no hesitation. Pray for the keel to be useful. Let's meet again. Otherwise, you are equivalent to having a finger cut off by me. There was a smile on the corner of Su Zicheng's mouth. It felt really good to hold such a large organization in the palm of his hand and ravage the ball wantonly on the spot. No wonder those in power are so reluctant to give up their rights. Shrugging, throwing out the inexplicable and strange thoughts in his head, Su Zicheng returned home. It was already 2 o'clock in the morning when he got home. After stretching comfortably and taking a shower, Su Zicheng fell asleep in a daze after touching the bed. It's a bit cold tonight. Very cold. As soon as the wind blows, it makes people feel like their noses are going to stay. But fortunately, Su Zicheng has a very strong physique and is not afraid of the cold. Lie on the bed and fell asleep quickly. The next morning, the door was covered with a layer of frost, in a school in Brooklyn. The students in the school didn't call the police the first time they realized that teacher Botu had died. Instead, they went back to sleep under the leadership of some senior, who knew the opponent's association and put a few people on guard. And make a phone call. The informant who answered the phone immediately notified Mrs. Gao and passed on the news of Botu's death. Do you died? After Mrs. Gao got the news, she took a plane immediately and flew back to the United States before the dawn of April 57. Come to school. The building where Botu died at the moment has been heavily blocked by many hands, trying to make sure that nothing can get close to the floor where Botu died. Take me up there to have a look. After reaching the 3rd floor, which is the floor where Botu died, Madame Gao narrowed her eyes slightly as she looked at Botu, who was covered in curse poison and frighteningly dead. She leaned on crutches with both hands, and stood quietly in front of the corpse, and beside her stood 2 muscular men, one black and one white, like the black and white ghosts in hell, without any emotion. Who killed him? Advertisement. In fact, this is a sub-question. The hand received information about the bounty hunter's identity from Botu the day before. The next day, Botu died strangely. These 2 things are definitely related at a glance. Move him away. Mrs. Gao instructed the 2 people next to her, saying, be careful, try not to touch his body, just grab the clothes. Yes. The 2 nodded, and immediately stepped forward and carefully lifted Botu's body. Su Zicheng didn't know what happened in the school. He didn't want to know either. It is inevitable that Botu will be taken away. During this time, he had a good rest and it was over. Su Zicheng yawned, and opened the window, only to see a cold current rushing into the warm room, which lifted his whole body. Winter. It's summer when time travels. The 4 seasons of the year have passed 2 seasons. He didn't care about time during this time. Only now did I realize that the people on this street are all active. Just like the Spring Festival in China, except that in China there are lanterns and festoons, but here are trees, big or small, with colorful lights hanging on them. That's right, a Christmas tree. 3 days later. Christmas is coming. Advertisement. The atmosphere is not bad. It has nothing to do with me. Su Zicheng shrugged. It's lunchtime, let's eat lunch. However, he didn't realize it until he went out. As the most important holiday in Midland, except for Manhattan, which is being reconstructed, almost all places are closed, including restaurants and other places. However, it is worth mentioning that this is a festival that is closed almost everywhere, and Chinese restaurants are open. This is good news. However, Su Zicheng was dumbfounded again when he came to a nearby Chinese restaurant. Why the hell are there so many people? These Chinese restaurants are all very ostentatious. Cantonese-style morning tea, and various Chinese restaurants are almost overcrowded, even reaching the point of being a big crowd. Su Zicheng searched from memory for a long time before finding information about this. It turns out that it is the tradition of these foreigners to eat Chinese food on Christmas Day. Just as ethnic Chinese were once discriminated against, widespread anti-Semitism in the early 20th century made Jews unpopular in many high-end restaurants, but they were never discriminated against in Chinese restaurants. It is said that many Jews in the United States eat Chinese food on Christmas to protest. From 1870 to 1940, Chinese and Jews in the United States were in a similar situation. They got along with each other and reached a certain degree of integration. In the years when anti-Semitism was prevalent, only in the Chinese restaurants could Jews find a moment of peace. On Christmas Day, having a Chinese meal in a Chinese restaurant has become a symbol of Jewish cultural identity. In addition, there is another point that the Jewish law stipulates that meat should not be eaten with milk, and the Chinese restaurant in Midi has never had dairy products. Chinese restaurants have even become sites where Jewish identities are cast, reinvented, and proclaimed. Definitely, not the most important. Advertisement. The most important reason is actually only one point: only Chinese restaurants are still open on Christmas. After all, when almost all restaurants and other places were closed for Christmas, only Chinese people who did not pass Christmas still opened Chinese restaurants. If you don't eat this, what else can you eat? This reason is somewhat arbitrary, but it is a fact. However, it is worth mentioning that decades later, when those young people who grew up eating Chinese food at Christmas grew into middle-aged and elderly people, it has already become a tradition. Many people in the United States even think that eating Western food at Christmas is a very incredible thing. For many Jews in the United States, Christmas Eve is full of imagination. Definitely, it is not the imagination of small candies, but roast duck sprinkled with plum syrup or a plate full of beef lo mein, a plate of General Tso's chicken, and maybe some hot and sour soup. The authentic way of celebrating is completely different from the Christmas in China. Definitely, it's not the same if it's different. There's nothing to say about it. There are also spring festivals in foreign countries. As a native, Su Zicheng is naturally proud of cultural transmission. His only dissatisfaction is that what most people eat is the United States-style westernized Chinese food. 2.2 is not to say that there is no essence or anything, it is mainly because he is not used to it. After queuing for a long time, I didn't have any desire to eat after 2 bites. Too sweet. I don't know when I can find the owner of a Chinese restaurant to open a small stove for myself. I haven't eaten an authentic Chinese restaurant for a while. Christmas, as a holiday, is celebrated in the United States. However, it is in such a festive atmosphere. However, some people's lives are not so good, and some people are not very happy. For example, Tony, who doesn't feel very good, is addicted to Mark Armour all day long. Another example is Pepper, who moved to 10,880 Malibu Street and lived with Tony. All the way from the Battle of the Alien Invasion in Manhattan. Tony hadn't done anything serious. Oh no, as Iron Man, he might be doing business. During this time, Tony hid in the laboratory of the villa, constantly making the Mark armor. From the Mark 7, based on the Mark 7, the frenzied manufacture of armor began. At present, there are all models from Mark 7 to Mark 42. Definitely, these armors are different from the qualitative change from Mark 1 to Mark 7. Mark 7 to Mark 41 are all functional armors. For example, the space combat armor, because Tony realized his lack of space combat after the last alien invasion. Otherwise he could have commanded the Mark armor to enter the space battleship and put a firework on them. Also, this requires lurking, so use the Mark X lurking armor. This requires weightlifting, so use Mark Mars weightlifting armor. These 28 need to swim, so use the Mark XX swimming armor. They all belong to the partial class armor. It is completely different from the all-round improvement and technological leap from Mark 1 to Mark 7. That's why Tony was able to create so many mechs in such a short period of time. The only one that is considered technical is Mark 42 Prodigal Son. Although there are still many shortcomings, it is enough to be called a model from 0 to 1. With a little more effort, another evolution of Iron Man can be realized. It retains and strengthens the separate design of the skeletal armor. It is originally made of steel, silicon, and titanium. It can cover the user specified by Tony in a few seconds. It is waterproof and radiation-proof, and can also adapt to high-altitude operations, space operations, and long-distance operations. Transportation. The intelligent design controlled by nerves allows Tony to remotely control the armor, and even has a certain degree of self-healing function. In addition to the above features, the Mark 42 Prodigal is also the only Iron Man armor equipped with a traditional plasma chest gun. It can be said that it is a battle frame with a very high average score, and its combat effectiveness is not ordinary. Advertisement. But having said that, as a springboard, Mark 42 is only an experimental armor after all. It sounds tall, but in actual combat performance, all aspects of performance and combat performance are actually very unstable. Especially in the process of transforming, if you are not careful, some things that are unacceptable to men may occur, and the speed of deploying armor is not ideal. If you want to wait until it evolves, you may need to work harder. At dusk, Pepper returned to the villa in the car. After arriving at the gate of the villa, I saw a super big rabbit about 3 meters high standing there, with a sign hanging on its chest. Merry Christmas, Pepper. To this ugly big rabbit doll. Pepper could only sigh helplessly. Back to the villa. I'm sorry I'm late, She just wanted to apologize for being late, but as soon as she entered the door, she saw Tony sitting on the sofa wearing a Mark armor. What is this? Pepper felt a little helpless, and said as he walked, what are you doing wearing this at home? Which one is this? The 15th generation. Ah, yes, almost. Tony stood up, shaking the MK42 feet logo on his right hand. Everyone has hobbies. Pepper took off his high heels and said, then your hobby is wearing this armor at home? It's just getting used to it. It was a little tight at the beginning. Advertisement, Tony replied. Pepper couldn't help laughing. Hey, did you see your Christmas present? I definitely saw it. How could I not see that special gift? Can I move in? Oh, I called kidnap or come over tomorrow and they'll blow up the wall. So this is the damn rich man who wants to blow up the wall of the villa for a doll, and Su Zaicheng will definitely complain about it when he hears it. Oh, are you tired? Let me give you a massage. Tony came up behind Pepper and wanted to give her a massage. But she was pushed away. Listen, I appreciate your thoughtfulness for me. Pepper leaned close to Tony, putting his hands on his chest, but I think now you should open this cold mask and give me a warm kiss. Tony patted his forehead, made a clang, and then pointed to the steel mouth of the mask. Look, it can't be opened, or you can come here for a while. It's okay, I'll see if I can find a harder fuda to drive. With that said, Pepper walked towards the underground garage. Tony reacted, and quickly said, there seems to be a radiation leak there. I'm willing to take the risk. It's too dangerous. At least you should bring a chemical shield or something. Then, after Pepper walked to the underground garage, he saw Tony doing pull-ups and wearing a special VR device on his head. In an instant, she understood. Advertisement, it's just boring to a certain extent. Peebo looked 160 degrees dissatisfied and looked around. You invited me to dinner, and I ate first. I just finished some work, so I just ate a few bites. I don't know if you were going home tonight, or going to drink with Killian. Tony got off the horizontal bar, panting lightly. What? Pepper looked at Mark 42 next to him in disbelief. What? Aldrich Killian. Are you spying on me? Happy is worried about you. No, you're spying on me, I'm going to bed. Pepper shook his head and went straight upstairs. Pepper. Sorry, I was wrong. Seeing Pepper was really angry, Tony quickly raised his hands in a gesture of surrender. Pepper looked back at him. I'm in a bad situation. Tony put his hands down and said helplessly, my situation is very bad. It's been a long time, and I haven't said it. It was New York that changed me. Pepper sighed secretly, and walked down the stairs slowly. Really? I didn't realize it, It's been so long, but how do I explain it to myself? Tony walked towards Pepper and said, God? An alien? And me? Just a man hiding in a tin. Since the Battle of New York, Tony's life has undergone huge amounts of changes. The experience of facing unreasonable gods and alien invasions has subverted Tony's worldview, and he has suffered from anxiety disorders. God? Thor? God of trickery Loki? And aliens trying to invade Earth? In the face of Thor and the aliens, Tony wears the iron armor and can fight for the benefit of the Earth. In fact, to put it bluntly, Tony wasn't really Iron Man just yet. Except for a high-tech armor and weapons that have been ahead of the world for an unknown number of years, he is just a rich ordinary person, perhaps very smart. But being smart doesn't mean that he will remove this psychological barrier without any shock. The appearance of gods and aliens perfectly subverted his worldview. It also made him truly realize that once the armor is taken off, he is just an ordinary mortal. In front of these sci-fi incomparable things, money is useless paper. That's why he locked himself in the laboratory with great anxiety and kept making armor, because he only had, and could only rely on, the armor to gain a sense of security. I haven't collapsed until now, just because you moved here. It's good, I love you, and I'm so lucky to have you by my side at times like this. Tony looked at Pepper in front of him, with no place to rest his hands. But, honey, I can't sleep. You go to bed, I'll just do my own thing here, knocking and knocking. My own business, which is to build Iron Man armor, to give him a little dispensable sense of security. Tony is also very helpless about his current situation, and he said while sitting on the table next to him, dangers are everywhere, I want to protect them, and the only thing I can't lose is you, definitely, and these armors, which are machine. Advertisement, Pepper replied. That's part of who I am. You're running away. Maybe. Looking at Tony, who was at a loss like a little boy in front of him. Pepper walked up to him, hugged him gently, held his head gently, took off the VR device, and said softly, I'm going to take a bath. Okay. You come too. That's better. Night. Tony and Pepper were fast asleep. However, Tony didn't sleep so well, in a cold sweat. Dreamed about the scene of the Battle of New York. Pepper was woken up because of this, and worriedly called softly, Tony. 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 Just at the moment. The prodigal son of Mark 42 walked over to the bed without a sound, grabbed Pepper's hand that was supporting Tony, and pushed it aside. What? Pepper was taken aback by the sudden mechanical armor. The exclamation finally woke Tony up. Looking at the scene in front of him, Tony quickly stretched out his hands. Turn off the power. Mark 42 straightened up, and the lights in his eyes suddenly went out. Tony clasped his hands together and slapped lightly. The link worked, and the Mark 42 in front of him disassembled into pieces and fell to the ground clangingly. Advertisement. Tony held on to the floor in fear, panting heavily. Pepper next to him was so frightened that he turned on the light and gasped for breath. It must have been called it in a dream, it shouldn't have happened. Tony turned around and explained in embarrassment. I have to recalibrate the sensor, can we, first let me. Pepper didn't listen to Tony's explanation at all, stood up on his own, brushed his hair behind his back covered in cold sweat, and walked out of the room. Let me take a breath first, don't go. Tony tried to keep it. I'll go downstairs to sleep, you can sleep with it. Pepper is gone. Tony slumped to the ground, looking utterly defeated. The next morning. Su Zaicheng stretched himself. Today is a big day. The first day after Christmas, the day of the official global conference. Basically all the stations are talking about this now. Su Zaicheng is also paying attention. Not that he cared much about global events. Mainly because it's about your next money. Definitely, pay attention to it. Promise this, promise that, talk about this, talk about that. In Su Zaicheng's view, this global meeting is a lot of nonsense. The Earth in the Marvel world, if there are no accidents, there will be many crises of annihilation in the future, and the whole world will die every now and then, half of the people will die, and the words of these congressmen have not seen any effect. Advertisement. To withdraw money. Su Zaicheng put on his clothes, looked at the time, the bank at the moment should have opened. The United States is not like the country. There are payment packages everywhere and Weiwei can scan the code to pay at any time. Most of the places here still use cash. Very inconvenient. At least Su Zaicheng, who lived in China for so long in his previous life, feels this way. He is running out of cash now, so he needs to mention it. The bank is not too far from the street where Su Zaicheng lives, and it takes about 10 minutes to walk there. Because it was Dubai, and he was not performing any task, but just getting some money, so Su Zaicheng didn't run fast, but walked over slowly. It took about 20 minutes to reach the Stars and Stripes Bank. It's winter now, everyone is wearing padded jackets and down jackets, and he is the only one who is so thin, so Zhao is quite eye-catching. Get some cash out. Originally, I just wanted to withdraw some money to buy breakfast, and then go home to play games for a while, Christmas, and rest for a few days. However, things don't always go as planned. As soon as Su Zaicheng handed the bank card to the front desk of the bank, he saw 3 men, 1 woman, and 4 human beings, wearing super scary and realistic masks rushed in with pistols and submachine guns, and there was a burst of rattling in the air. Squat down. Hold your head and squat down. What? Gunshots and exclamations sounded at the same time. Su Zaichang didn't resist either. After all, he hadn't withdrawn his money, and these people couldn't grab anything from him. They just knelt down silently with their heads in their arms, and used telepathy to check the 4 people. If you don't check this, you don't know, and when you check it, you are shocked. Ouch, scared Deadman slightly changed. These 3 men and 1 woman made a total of 4 people. 4 pistols, 3 men also have submachine guns. Moreover, all 4 of them wore masks. The 3 men wear wolf masks, while the women wear fox masks. These masks look very realistic, and so it is. After Su Zaichang sensed them with the spiritual power of telepathy, he discovered something strange. That is, the faces of these 4 robbers are not masks, but real bodies. Obviously, they are 4 orcs, and they are the same race as the werewolves of Beacon Hill. This was the first time that Su Zaichang saw orcs outside Beacon Mountain. These guys must be rare races. There might be only 2 or 3 in a city. It's really strange to see 4 of them all at once. Shield tube regardless? 3 werewolves and a fox girl? Aren't werewolves and fox girls 2 races that hate each other? How can they mix together? Su Zaichang pouted. He didn't bother to care about it. Just rob it. Just don't mess with him. At worst, go to the next bank to withdraw money and it's over. While Su Zaichang was thinking about this, the 4 orcs were screaming crazily, asking the bank staff to hand over the money. That is, at this time, all the key points of New York, including the police force, etc., were rebuilt in Manhattan in 080. After all, Manhattan is the key point of the key city of New York. It contains countless super large companies, and there are not a few companies with hundreds of billions of dollars. The most important thing is that Tony Stark Group is also there. Therefore, the police force in other districts of New York is much smaller than usual due to the transfer. Advertisement otherwise, even if these 4 guys are orcs, it is impossible for them to rob a bank in Queens so blatantly. Isn't this courting death? However, Su Zaichang could also detect that these 4 orcs had no intention of killing people. Definitely, don't get me wrong, it's definitely not that they are kind-hearted. If they were kind-hearted, they wouldn't come to rob the bank. These 4 orcs look like punks. But if this incident kills someone, then the nature of the incident will change. Originally it was just a robbery case, so there must not be many police forces dispatched. They could still escape by relying on their realistic masks. But once Deadman, then absolutely search the whole city. Now in the 21st century, no matter what, there is nothing to hide, especially in the face of gangsters. The police have the right to directly wall. Even the orcs have to drink their hatred under the pistol. There are still smart people out there. Su Zaichang glanced around. The 4 orcs let the bank staff go inside to get the money, and at the same time they were searching for the citizens who came to the bank to get the money. Can't waste a moment. Quick, take it out. If you want to live, give me all your money. Break money and eliminate disasters. Quickly, under the threat of the 4 orcs' terrifying masks and pistols and firearms, some people who couldn't stand this situation directly threw all their belongings out. However, after the 4 orcs received these things in the sack, they were going to personally search for those who hadn't taken them out, but they were notified by the bank staff that the things had been settled. Take it. Go now. One of the werewolves, with a scar running through half of his face, said immediately. However, there are still many people who haven't given out their money. Advertisement. But what a fart. You can't stay here for another second, take the money and run away. Clear. The division of labor among the 4 orcs was very clear. After a brief exchange, they quickly picked up the sack next to them, and rushed out towards the bank's staff passage, escaping according to the route they had determined. The orcs left, and the customers in the bank finally breathed a sigh of relief. And at the moment, the police had just arrived. Don't blame them, it is already the limit to be able to reach it in a few minutes. All we can do now is to let people catch up immediately. Su Zaichang stood up and followed. He is mainly a little curious about these orcs and wants to go up and have a look. What drama does the Marvel world integrate again? He quietly also jumped out from the employee passageway. Then I found that a blind man wearing small round sunglasses, a cane in his hand, a suit and leather shoes, and a briefcase under his arm was running towards a certain direction at an incredible speed for blind people. Su Zaichang immediately turned on Hawkeye. With such a total, it was instantly discovered that the place where the blind man was going was the place where the 4 orcs were going to retreat. Tut tut. Interesting. Su Zaichang babbled. He could recognize who the blind man was. A lawyer. Matthew Murdoch. Advertisement. Not many people may know this name. But his other name is very popular in Hell's Kitchen. Daredevil. Since someone followed up to teach those lifeless orcs a lesson, Su Zaicheng didn't care. He can find that these orcs are just transformed into better physical fitness than ordinary people, and it is definitely very easy for the dignified Daredevil to arrange them. Definitely, as long as he's not intimidated by the shapeshifting orcs. But actually, there is nothing difficult to accept. The hand has dragon bones and resurrection. It is really not difficult to accept orcs. This incident is just a small episode in Su Zaicheng's life. The real orgasm is coming soon. For Su Zaicheng, the orgasm is nothing more than the thrill of receiving a small amount of money after completing the task. At present, his balance is 3.2825 billion left. The reason why Su Zaicheng didn't do the task during this period is that he has been waiting for another sum of money to arrive. Well, definitely not because there are no tasks for the time being. Since the Great War in New York, many large organizations have been in a panic, and everyone is in danger. Those are aliens and alien fleets. They appeared in Manhattan without any warning, and destroyed most of the buildings in Manhattan. Where do they have time to fight? It is estimated that those brainwashed crazy ninjas who are not afraid of death in the hand will still try to kill him before the end of the New York War or even before the main one. It will probably take a while to fully recover. That's about the same timeline. Su Zaicheng curled his lips and shrugged indifferently. There are not many people on Earth who can threaten him now, unless it is Jarvis who has obtained the mind gem. Oh no, it should be Vision. Poor Jarvis wants GG slightly. At present, the Stars and Stripes Bank has been temporarily blocked, so Su Zaicheng had to go to another bank to get some cash before going home. As for how the 4 orcs will be taught a lesson, it has nothing to do with him. When withdrawing money, Su Zaicheng also ate breakfast nearby, went home and started playing games, had dinner at noon, then played games, finished dinner at night, then played games, and finally went to bed. This is his full day. The next morning, Su Zaicheng finally heard the text message he had dreamed of. Because his mobile phone has been strengthened by the system, it is specially used to receive account information, so spam messages will not be received. Therefore, as long as there is a text message prompt tone, it must be a small amount of money in the account. As predicted, a total of 14.5 billion was transferred into his account. It was supposed to be 13.5 billion, but it was overdue, and Su Zaicheng didn't remind him. Nick Fury honestly added 1 billion to his account. Black marinated eggs are sometimes quite honest. Su Zaicheng nodded in satisfaction. The 14.5 billion plus account balance that has just arrived is 3.2825 billion. The peak of his account was refreshed again, reaching 17.7825 billion. Cool. Just looking at this series of crackling and gaudy numbers, Yin Zaicheng couldn't help but smile. Advertisement. This was the most money he had seen so far. If it weren't for the wave of strength that was raised before, more than 20 billion, it would be a lot of fun to think about it. Definitely. Naturally, this balance is not just for viewing. Su Zaicheng is not the kind of demented fool. Money is for spending. Leave no more and no less, just use it on the tip of the knife. Why wait for this money? Find out now. Because Su Zaicheng was eyeing an expensive skill. Still in the discount zone. The preferential area that has not been updated for thousands of years has finally been updated, although only one skill has been updated. Teleportation. The price is ***, 10% discount. After acquiring the skill, you can teleport within a certain range, and the range and times depend on the level of the hunter. Skill, teleportation. The original price is ***. The current price is only ***. Discounts, price cuts, discounts, surprises, genuine discounts. Buy as soon as possible. Buy as soon as possible. That's right, it's the magic skill of teleportation. Because there is no hierarchical system for teleportation, the initial selling price needs to be 100 billion. And even a discount in the preferential zone would cost 10 billion. A few days ago, Su Zaicheng was starved to death. Although his current strength is strong and his speed is extremely fast, in the eyes of ordinary people, he is not weaker than teleportation. But Su Zaicheng has always believed that the difference is very big. His speed is just an illusion caused by his speed. In the eyes of powerful people, he is still just fast. Advertisement. What about instant movement? To put it simply, teleportation can be understood as instant space jump. It is to go directly from one point in space to another point he identified without going through any other point in this space. Fast and fast are completely two concepts. The range of teleportation and the number of teleportation times of teleportation are determined by the level of the hunter and Su Zicheng's own strength. According to Su Zicheng's estimate, with his current strength, he can only teleport within a few thousand meters in a large range once, and forget about the small range. He can teleport within 100 meters several times in succession. Large-scale teleportation can be used to save lives, and small-scale teleportation can be used for combat. Moreover, small-scale teleportation can also be used in conjunction with shadow concealment. Whether it is escaping or lurking assassination, the combination of the two skills is simply amazing. No matter what it is, look left, right, up, down, this skill is so perfect. It's really good for everything. The only thing that Su Zicheng doesn't really like is that it's too expensive. There are only a few billion left in balance, which is not enough to buy teleportation, even if it is discounted. Moreover, who knows when the discount area will be refreshed? According to the introduction of the mall, the refreshment of the discount area is completely random, and it is possible that a discount can stay in it for dozens of days, months, or even years. But it is also possible to stay for only a few days, or even just a few hours, before being brushed off. Therefore, when Su Zicheng was waiting for the remaining half of the employment fee to arrive in the account these days, he was also in a melancholy mood, for fear that the teleportation in the preferential zone would disappear in the blink of an eye. Not to mention how good the teleportation skill is. Even the refreshed 10% discount is something you can't come across. When Su Zicheng bought hunter suits and physique enhancement potions, they were only 50% off or 30% off. Apart from the discount for newcomers, how can there be such a good thing as a discount? Zero advertisement anyway. This time the discount area is refreshed. If Su Zicheng doesn't take down this teleportation, he could regret it to the point of committing suicide on the spot. Suicide. I try my best to make money and buy teleportation at the original price. That's what it means. There's nothing wrong with it. Definitely. Of course there is no need to commit suicide now. All the money has arrived, and the discount area has not been refreshed, so a fool will buy it at the original price. Without the slightest hesitation, Su Zicheng went directly to the discount area of the mall and clicked on the teleportation in the discount. Skill, teleportation. The original price is ***. The current price is only ***. Discounts, price cuts, discounts, surprises, genuine discounts. Buy as soon as possible. Buy as soon as possible. Would you like to buy teleportation? Yes. Click. 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 After one pass operation, Su Zicheng account balance deducted 10 billion. Officially buy teleportation. Comfortable. After buying teleportation, although 10 billion were removed, Su Zicheng didn't feel any distress, and the big stone in his heart fell to the ground instead. I finally bought it, don't worry about it, I have been thinking about it all day. Because the discount area can't add the discount of the hunter level, so the money spent is a real 10 billion. Just like that, Su Zicheng's balance was only 7.7825 billion left. Definitely, this mall shopping is not over yet. His physique point was only raised to 275 last time because of insufficient money, and now that he has money, it is natural to increase it to 300. 20% off, spending 2 billion, leaving a full 500 million, this hunter level discount is quite impressive. Besides, Su Zicheng also decided to strengthen the cursed blood. Cursed blood is indeed cursed blood. Sell? The demon knife with an original price of 100 million. Even if it is just strengthening +1, it needs a full 10 million, which is much more terrifying than the money required for strengthening equipment such as hunter suits and elemental bows. July 20th, but relatively speaking, strengthening requires a lot of money, which means that the strength after strengthening will also meet the required money. So Su Zicheng didn't have too much hesitation. Click 5 times directly to strengthen the curse blood to +5. The strengthening of equipment level is regular. Generally, there will be a price increase for every +5, and the same is true for the spell blood, which has directly increased from 10 million to 100 million. Su Zicheng clicked it to +10 without changing his face. The total cost is 550 million, and a 20% discount is 440 million. It's worth the money spent. Advertisement. Cursed blood has evolved something too. Curse blood. Knife. +10. If the extremely sharp demon knife is cut by this knife, even a small wound will be infected with curse poison from the wound and die quickly. There is no way to detoxify. After the strengthening level reaches plus 10, can force the curse poison out of the knife body and turn it into a colorless and odorless liquid. Everyone who touches it will be infected with the curse poison, and the curse poison will strengthen along with strengthening. In addition to the sharpness, hardness and other basics and the strengthening of curse poison, plus 10 curse blood also has a bells and whistles. It can turn the curse poison into a liquid and force it out of the blade, and everyone it touches will be infected with the curse. Su Zaicheng babbled and babbled. In the future he can quietly kill a person with a knife. Put a little cursed liquid on the doorknob? Overall, although it cost a lot of money this time, it is definitely worth it. 12.94 billion, this is all the money he spent in this minute. Host. Su Zaicheng Physical Fitness, 300 Hunter Level, B. Ability. King Kong Indestructible Body LV.5, Swordsmanship LV.4, Copy Eyes LV.3, Absolute Hit IV.3, Hawkeye vs. .3, Mind Control LV.4, Shadow Stealth version 3, Mind Reading Dangerous Perception Self-Healing Meditation Teleportation, 12/15. Equipment. Hunter Suit, plus 2/5, Elemental Bow, plus 2/5, White Snake Bow, plus 5, Tracking Paper Crane, 2, Curse Blood, Knife, plus 10. Mall Balance. 4.8425 billion so F** King Heartless. There are only more than 4 billion left, Su Zaicheng pouted. Money is hard to earn, and it is used quickly. When will my savings reach 100 billion? Even. Forget it. Don't dream anymore. The remaining 4 billion Su Zaicheng is not ready to spend. Advertisement. There are some things that need to be left behind. You can't spend all the money. If you save it, in case of danger, you can still find many unexpected but expensive life-saving items or equipment in the system store. Maybe the more than 4 billion yuan left now will be the life-saving capital in the future. Su Zaicheng yawned, and on a whim, he directly used the teleportation ability to teleport from the room to the outside. Then, I obviously felt that my physical strength had dropped a little. Definitely, compared to his 300 physique, this physical strength is not particularly much, but it is already very obvious. According to Su Zaicheng's estimation, it is at least equivalent to his running around Manhattan at a very high speed. It wasn't particularly tiring for him, but he could feel his physical strength drop. After all, with a physique of 300, to put it bluntly, he is still immortal, and he can only use about 100 tons of strength. No matter how strong his physical strength is, it is impossible to run the entire Earth without feeling tired. At that time, on the Earth, teleportation will not be used by him. Another few teleports in succession. Su Zaicheng brushed his teeth, ate a few slices of bread, sat in the living room, and turned on the TV. He was going to pay attention to some recent events. However, what he didn't expect was that white dots flashed on the TV, and the original clear picture suddenly changed to the appearance of the TV in the last century. Inside is a middle-aged and old man with long hair and beard. He is wearing a strange costume. He is in the desert. Next to him are a group of people wearing cloth bags, forming a square. Behind him is a wall. Portrait. In front of the wall, there was a group of black people kneeling on the ground. A little further ahead, a group of terrorists were holding up AKs and aiming at the black people kneeling on the ground. The bearded man, wearing sunglasses and with his hands behind his back, paused for a while in front of the kneeling black people, then walked away slowly. Some people say I'm a terrorist. Advertisement. I consider myself a teacher. There was a burst of gunfire. All the blacks fell to the ground. The United States. Ready for another class? In Sand Creek, Colorado, in the United States in 1864, the army waited for the kindly Cheyenne warriors to go out hunting, to attack and slaughter the families they left behind, and then, to claim their land. The picture turned and turned back to become a little clearer. The bearded man appeared alone in a room. He took off his sunglasses and walked around the room, really like a teacher. 39 hours ago, the MI Army's Ariosa 0.8 Lim Air Force Base was attacked. Yes, I did it. An old military church full of women and children. The soldiers were out practicing at the time, and the warriors were not there. President Ellis, you refused to accept my education even when you disappeared, but now you can only listen obediently. You know who I am, but you don't know where I am. The picture played on the TV became more and more bloody. Su Zaicheng frowned slightly, did not continue watching, but chose to turn off the TV. Who is the man in front of him? He definitely knows. Although he is just a counterfeit, his current name is Mandarin. Mandarin, the leader of the legendary terrorist organization 10 Rings. 10 rings is a pattern that appears on the movie screen after the black and white screen of the movie flashes. 10 rings form a circle in various colors. It is very necessary to mention that the official 10 rings who kidnapped Tony in the Middle East. To ask why they kidnapped Tony. In fact, there is no hatred and no hatred, the most important thing is that Obadiah asked 10 rings to kidnap him. Take money to do things. Now, it's about the same. Definitely, the Mandarin in front of me is just an actor, the real villain is still behind and will not show up. After all, 10 rings is also a big organization, and the leader is even more powerful. If the 5 fingers of the hand touch the 10 rings of 10 rings, they will probably be beaten to spit shit. It's that ruthless. Su Zicheng shook his head. Seeing the terrorist attack early in the morning was really a bit unpleasant. He decided to go back to the villa for 2 days today. It wasn't because of the terrorists, but because he had planned to wait for the money to come back to the villa to play for a day or two, and then he started to accept tasks, and the bounty hunter came back out of the rivers and lakes. After all, bounty hunters have been silent for too long. If you don't accept the task again, someone should think that you are dead. But after being at ease for so long, Su Zicheng suddenly became a little lazy, so he chose to go back to the villa for 2 days. What if Gally is back at the villa? Noon. Advertisement. Happy feels that Aldridge Killian is up to no good during the day, especially Pepper. What if Tony gets green? And the guy that Aldridge Killian brought in looked really weird. And Happy. Although currently serving as the minister of the security department. But many years ago, he was actually Tony's bodyguard. Well, that's right, that's Iron Man's personal bodyguard. Now that Happy says it, others don't believe it. But it is what it is. Moreover, until now, Harpy is still performing the task of being a bodyguard, including tracking down Aldridge Killian and his men. As the head of security of the Stark Group, Happy was also Tony's former personal bodyguard. Tony can rest assured that he is naturally given real power, and he is naturally very powerful. He already photographed the license plate of Aldridge Killian's car yesterday, and now he just needs to ask Jarvis or others to find out where it is. And the people Happy looked for lived up to his expectations, and soon found where they were. It was a place in Manhattan that hadn't been destroyed by aliens, the Washaw Theater. Except for this one, the people who got out of the cars seemed to be heading to Queens, not sure where. Looking at the address in front of him, Happy squinted his eyes. He is leaving. If you doubt a person, then you have to act. See what Aldridge Killian is going to do. Queens will be temporarily put aside, anyway, the first is to investigate. Night. Washaw Grand Theater. Happy randomly found an identity to mix in. And sure enough, just as he expected, advertisement. Aldrich Killian's subordinates took a briefcase and went straight to a person who was sitting on a chair, sweating all over his body, and looked a little uneasy. And he didn't know what to say. After all, Harpy doesn't have a super ability, so he can only observe quietly. Aldrich Killian's men handed the briefcase to the man. The man looked very happy, and he couldn't wait to open the briefcase, wanting to see what was inside. To this, Happy didn't say anything, but took practical actions. Walking up to him, pretending to bump into the man accidentally. The man's unclosed briefcase was knocked to the ground. Sorry bro. Happy immediately knelt down to help him pick up the contents of the briefcase. There was nothing strange in the briefcase, at least that's how it feels. However, when Happy raised his head and glanced at the man, he couldn't help being stunned. Because, the man in front of him suddenly emitted a gust of heat. The temperature was extremely high, and under his skin, something similar to magma could be seen flowing. The skin appears to be transparent. Happy stood up puzzled, clutching the gadgets from the briefcase in his hand, thinking for a while. What's the matter with this man? Another supernatural event. However, within a few steps, Happy hit him again, definitely, this time someone else bumped him. Happy only felt that he had bumped into an iron wall, and turned around to look after grunting. It was Aldridge Killian's men. Advertisement. Hey, brother. Aldridge Killian's subordinates obviously knew Happy. With a smile on his face, it looked like you and I were brothers. Watching romantic movies alone on a warm night? Yes, for calling the party over. Happy nodded, looking at the bald man in front of him. The leading role is you and the girl you want. Here are the movie tickets. As he spoke, he took out the small medicine bottle of 283 in his hand. Just kidding. That's not yours. Aldrich Killian's men's complexions sank at a speed visible to the naked eye, and they immediately tried to take the thing back. However, although Happy has not been a bodyguard for a long time and looks a little fat, but his strength is still there, Otherwise he would not be able to be the bodyguard of Tony, a rich man. With a backhand, he put the small bottle behind him. Aldrich Killian's subordinates were obviously a little surprised. This fat man seems to have good skills. However, he didn't wait for him to continue to have any ideas. After avoiding his hand, Happy punched him hard in the face with his left hand, which was not holding the vial. Mound. Punch. Aldrich Killian's men just swayed, but did not suffer any damage. Both of them took a step back. Happy looked at this guy in disbelief. When did my fist become so soft? Is it because of the left hand? Happy immediately switched hands. Caught off guard by the opponent, he clenched a fist with his right hand and punched out again. Pong. This time it finally hit the nail on the head. Aldrich Killian's men turned their heads to the side. However, Happy was still a little puzzled. If it was an ordinary person who was hammered this time, that person should have passed out long ago. He is not left-handed, and Happy is very confident in his fists. Such fist-to-flesh fighting attracted the exclamation of many women and the attention of men. Happy was a little puzzled, but his wonder soon disappeared and turned into dullness. At this moment, Aldrich Killian's men suddenly had extremely hot magma surging on the cheeks hit by the fist, just like the man just now. He turned around slowly and looked directly at Happy, with a tinge of red on his face that had just submerged in the aftertaste. However, Happy is poor. He calmed down quickly, and then another punch out. However, this time it was different from the previous ending. Aldrich Killian's men directly grabbed Happy's hand with a backhand and threw it back with an overwhelming force. Happy's heavy body was thrown high in an instant, and it slammed into a small cart a few meters away, smashing all the glass and other things on it. Pung. Pung. Happy was hit hard all of a sudden, and he was completely out of sorts. Seeing such a scene, the onlookers couldn't help exclaiming a few times, and hurriedly wanted to back away. And at the moment, the man who met Aldrich Killian's subordinates on the other side had his hands clenched into fists in front of his mouth, panting continuously. However, this doesn't work. Advertisement. A red light suddenly appeared on the man's cheek. Happy's face was covered with small wounds cut by glass, blood was flowing, and he struggled to get up. Aldrich Killian's men walked straight towards Happy. Still, just walked up to Happy. "Savin, save me, save me." The man with whom he traded suddenly spoke. The man called Savin turned his head to look. I saw that the man was already kneeling on the ground. His veins were bulging, his skin seemed to be transparent, and his entire face was a magma-like color, even his eyes. Just at this very moment, the man stretched out his trembling right hand with great difficulty. The red light on his face became even brighter, and the temperature around him quickly rose. He opened his mouth suddenly, as if something was about to be spit out by him. Next second, the red light has reached a peak. Savin didn't have the slightest hesitation, and ran directly to the side. As for Happy, who was also on the path, he rolled on the spot and managed to hide behind the small booth car. Time seems to stand still. Boom. The man exploded directly, and the thousands of degrees of high temperature directly blasted the Washaw Grand Theater into ruins, and all the places close to the man were directly vaporized. The impact force knocked away the traffic outside the Washaw Grand Theater, resulting in a strange accident in which 18 vehicles collided but no one was injured. And almost at the same time, in a residential house on a certain street in Queens. Advertisement. It also exploded with this high temperature, spreading to a nearby family, causing the entire family to be buried in the crater. Washaw Grand Theater. The explosion is just a matter of a moment. It subsided quickly. The originally prosperous Washaw Grand Theater changed its appearance. Everywhere was gray and black, flames were still burning on the ground, and black ashes wafted in the air. Some of the gizmos inside were almost burned out by the heat. And in the theater, Happy was hit by the impact, and coupled with the high temperature burns, his whole body was covered with cuts and bruises, and he had already passed out. Apart from Happy, there are even more unlucky people. They were too close to that man, and they were directly gasified, leaving only a few gray shadows stuck on the wall, to symbolize how many people died. However, besides Happy in the theater, there is another guy. He slowly stood up from a blockage. The whole body was scorched black, and the feet were directly burned into charcoal. However, he only slowed down a little, and the wounds on his body healed at a speed visible to the naked eye, even including the feet that were burned into black charcoal. This person is Savin. Similarly, his body also had the same red light as the man who exploded. It's just obvious that the red light on Savin's body is much stronger than that of the man, and he can control himself. Many people died in the theater explosion. They were all people who didn't know the truth, and they were burned directly by the high temperature without even the ashes left. If the man who exploded wanted to shout, "I will kill you within 3 days, and I will give you the ashes," no one would dare not believe it. In the villa. Advertisement: Su Zaicheng was eating potato chips and watching TV leisurely. There are many foreign films that are quite good, and there is a grading system. If Su Zaicheng wants to watch some exciting scenes, he doesn't need to look for resources, just choose R18 films to watch. However, there are always people who like to disturb him when he is happy. The TV suddenly convulsed again. Several pictures of 10 rings flashed. Su Zaicheng was really helpless, but this time he didn't plan to change the channel, but wanted to see what these guys were up to. Soon, after the 10 rings logo flashed, the feature film began to play. Some ancient pictures and weird rituals began to be played inside, interspersed with some modern film and television clips, which made it even more weird. Definitely, the most important thing is that there are terrorists with guns in the vast desert. Fortune cookies look very Chinese and sound very Chinese. But they were actually invented by the United States, damn. So, it's hollow, it's full of lies, and it tastes weird. A greasy look flashed across the TV, and an old man with a big beard stepped off a helicopter, with several women and children kneeling in front of him. The dark and greasy eyes disappeared, replaced by the full face of the bearded old man, Mandalin. My followers just destroyed another cheap copy of the United States, and the home of a superhero. The Washaw Grand Theater in the house where the bounty hunter lives. Mr. President, I know that you must be shocked, but this horrible scene is about to end. Su Zaicheng didn't continue watching, but after turning off the TV, he was thinking about the guy's words in a daze. What's the situation? King blew up my house. Don't I live here? Oh no, it should be that home. Su Zaicheng was really a little sluggish this time. Damn chicken, as soon as I walked on my front foot, my back foot was King blown up. In fact, Su Zaicheng only needs to think about it for a while, and he understands why these guys want to blow up his home. I'm afraid it's to show off the president, superhero can't save you. But why the K are you blowing me up? Su Zaicheng looked marfak. Am I not a superhero? No one will believe this, after all, Su Zaicheng's things on the bright side are almost all good things, such as fighting hatred, fighting aliens. If you say anything about it, it's a superhero. However, he did a lot of things in private, killing one of the 5 fingers of the hand, killing Harold Meacham, capturing Loki. Wait. Su Zaicheng opened his eyes abruptly. After doing this calculation, it seems that the only thing he did badly in the true sense was stealing Mjolnir. Shet. In short, S.H.I.E.L.D. was cheated, and they definitely couldn't find out about this kind of thing. These guys aren't really 10 rings after all, they don't have such a big ability yet. Su 980 Zaicheng is still a pain in the ass. What do you want me to do to you? Even if I am a superhero, isn't it more deterrent for you to find other superheroes to compete with you than blowing up my house? Advertisement: in terms of influence, Su Zaicheng is the smallest and most invisible one, not even as good as Natasha Romanoff and Hawkeye. Still, having said that, after Su Zaicheng thought about it, he understood again. The superheroes who are currently exposed on the bright side and have been exposed several times are Tony, Thor, Banner, Barton, Natasha Romanoff and him. Thor returns to God's domain. Banner is missing. Barton and Natasha Romanoff, agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., are also missing. The last Tony, Aldrich Killian, who was behind the scenes this time, still needed Tony, so he didn't try to kill Tony immediately. Calculating in this way, it seems that only he, the most insignificant superhero, can find a house. Don't kill people. Let's blow up a house, it's still very good, right? Anyway, ordinary people don't need to know whether they are blowing up the real superhero's house, as long as the upper level people know. Regarding this, Su Zaicheng was still a little helpless. What is unexpected calamity? This is called unexpected disaster. He is not a hero at all. Even Aldrich Killian can find him and set up tasks. Is he really convinced? Su Zaicheng can't sleep now either. To sum it up, I directly chose to call a taxi and go back to have a look. As the owner of the house, he naturally had to go back and have a look if something happened to the house. What's more, this house is the corner of his current information. If you want to find him, you can only come to this house. Now that this place has been bombed, Su Zaicheng has to find another one. Is it really him? The more I think about it, the angrier I get. It made Su Zaicheng's gloomy face all the way, and scared the taxi driver enough, for fear that he would suddenly take out a pistol from under his chest and shoot him away. Advertisement. Fortunately, Su Zaicheng is very safe except for his ugly face. Go back to Queens, behind the street where my home is. Su Zaicheng found out that martial law had been imposed here. And not only his building, but also the neighbor's building was blocked. What's the meaning? All Su Zaicheng's current information comes from TV, so he doesn't know why he has to block two famous houses all at once. However, there are some not so good guesses vaguely in my heart. This conjecture still needs to be confirmed. Su Zaicheng randomly picked up a kind-hearted middle-aged aunt who was watching the fun outside the cordon, and asked, "Hi, may I ask what happened?" No matter what country you are in, joining in the fun is something that everyone likes to do very much, definitely, except for gun battles. Young man, don't you even know that? The white ant looked at Su Zaicheng in surprise, and then explained, that house was bombed by terrorists. As he spoke, he pointed to Su Zaicheng's home. You can see it at a glance. Su Zaicheng nodded. His house has been blown out of countless large and small pits, and it is dark and still burning with flames. The firefighters only dare to pour water into it outside, for fear that the house will collapse once they enter, saying that it is a dangerous building. They all praise it. Then there's more, because why do you want to block the ones next to it? In fact, it can be seen that it was also bombed. But Su Zaicheng still wants to make sure. The house next to it was unlucky. It was affected by the bomb. The whole family was watching TV in the living room. As a result, the wall collapsed, crushing the whole family to death. 3 people, none of them survived. The white ant was a little sad when she said it. She obviously lived nearby and knew her neighbors. This family is good. Although the child is naughty, he is eager to help others. Who knows today? She wanted to say something, but when she looked up, Zaicheng had disappeared into the crowd. Advertisement. Su Zaicheng, who was pushing out of the crowd, looked a little gloomy. He's getting a little angry. Originally, he didn't plan to take care of this matter, or wait for Tony's call to let him carry out the task. But now, it doesn't seem to matter. Su Zaicheng decided that this time, I don't want money, and I will use my own name to kill these things. However, Su Zaicheng just took a few steps. His cell phone rang. According to the system display, it was Tony calling. Su Zaicheng connected the phone. Hello? Mr. Hunter, are you on a mission now? Tony's heavy voice came from the other end of the phone. Obviously he was not in a good mood. Happy still got bombed? Su Zaicheng sighed secretly, his voice remained cold. No. Well. Tony breathed a sigh of relief, and quickly said, Mr. Hunter, Happy, the head of security of the Stark Group, was seriously injured. I suffered shocks to internal organs and deep burns. I am now issuing a mission to treat Happy. Will you take it? By the end, Tony was clearly looking forward to it. Because of such a serious injury, if there is no accident, Happy is likely to sleep forever. He couldn't find any other way, so he could only find Su Zaicheng. And Su Zaicheng lived up to expectations. After pondering for a while, he nodded. I have accepted this task, tell me the location, and I will be there soon. Then, Tony mentioned a location. It was in the intensive care unit of a hospital in Manhattan. And in the hospital ward, it belongs to the level of the presidential suite. Su Zaicheng wasn't too surprised. After all, this was Harpy, whom Tony had known for decades. They were bodyguards, but they were more like family members and close buddies. Su Zaicheng soon came to this large hospital in Manhattan. At the moment, because the incident happened not long ago, many reporters did not know that the injured person was the head of security of the Stark Group, so they were basically still at the scene, and there were not many idle people waiting around here in the hospital. However, there are many doctors and nurses. Su Zaicheng sneaked into the hospital, and directly used the shadow concealment technique and teleportation to jump from the outside to the inside. I saw Tony sitting in front of the hospital bed, half bent, covering his face with his hands. On the hospital bed, Harpy was seriously injured. His face was black and blue, and Harpy, who had just been rescued, seemed to be in a bad condition, and Tony looked very worried. Tony. Su Zaicheng slowly emerged from the shadow. Tony, who was very worried about Harpy and immersed in sadness, had expected that Su Zaicheng would appear in a very mysterious way, but he was still taken aback by such a sudden appearance. Shit. Tony jumped 3 feet high, and almost couldn't help calling Ma Fu from the distant villa. I can't help it, it's really scary. Such a person suddenly quietly appeared behind you, and even called your name. Tony's nerves are not that strong now. Definitely, when he saw that it was Su Zaicheng, he stopped him in time. Advertisement. Fortunately, after the little pepper incident last night, Tony immediately modified the sensor for a wave, trying to strengthen it to the best, so what happened to the little pepper that day did not happen. Call. Tony heaved a sigh of relief, and slumped on the chair, with a helpless expression on his face. Mr. Hunter, when will your appearance be less scary? He held back for a long time before choking out the next sentence. After all, he still has to rely on Su Zaicheng to heal Happy for him, so he definitely can't talk back. To this, Su Zaicheng just shrugged and said no. Tony had an expected expression on his face, and said, Mr. Hunter, can you cure Harpy? As long as you can cure him, money is not a problem. It's not a problem not to pay, just make an offer. Su Zaicheng was helpless. He also wanted to ask for a price, but it was a pity that the system refused to allow it, and there must be an accurate employment fee. 5 billion. No, 1 billion. Tony started to say a number, but changed his words quickly. 1 billion, Happy. I took it. Su Zaicheng clicked his tongue secretly. I didn't expect Tony to pay so much for Happy. However, it is not a surprise. The friendship between him and Happy is immeasurable. Even if he knew that Happy would be cured at the end of the plot, he would probably let Su Zaicheng heal him anyway. Because the development of the plot is the development of the plot, and it is difficult to change. Tony looks carefree, but he is a cautious person. He will never entrust this kind of thing to the so-called plot development. Save people? Su Zaicheng actually does. Advertisement. After all, I have learned minor healing techniques with Jiali, but that can only treat some moderate diseases. For a severely ill patient like Harpy whose internal organs have been damaged, and the surface is covered with scars, the general treatment is not very useful. At most, the surface and the inside are hard to reach. Therefore, Su Zaicheng didn't even bother to try. Instead, I bought something directly from the system mall. Therapeutic potion. The price is 1 million. After drinking it, it is enough to treat seriously injured patients to minor injuries. 1 million potions. Su Zaicheng didn't have hesitation, so he bought it directly. After all, the price that Tony offered was 1 billion, and he exchanged 1 million for 1 billion. How could it be described as huge profits? The bottle of the healing potion is a bit like a reagent bottle, filled with a green translucent liquid. Feed him a drink. The healing potion is for internal use, and Su Zaicheng didn't have the habit of feeding a big man, so he gave the potion directly to Tony. Well, good. 11. Tony nodded, took the potion, carefully handed it to Happy's mouth, and fed him to drink. He didn't doubt Su Zaicheng. After all, if Su Zaicheng wanted to harm Happy, he wouldn't be able to stop him wearing the mark armor, so there was no need to be so troublesome by beating around the bush. And it turns out that Ni's idea is correct. After Harpy drank the healing potion, the bruises and swelling on his face slowly disappeared at a speed visible to the naked eye, and his originally weak breathing gradually became heavy, his chest heaved and fell, and he looked very vital, tenacious. Ost. Tony heaved a sigh of relief. Advertisement. Witnessing this miraculous scene, he finally felt relieved. Tony, I'm going to find Mandolin. Do you need to help you kill him? No charge. Su Zaicheng originally wanted to turn around and leave, but when the sound came out suddenly, he asked casually. Unexpectedly, Tony suddenly looked at him seriously. Mr. Hunter, I will not hire you this time. I will teach that guy a lesson and let him know what Iron Man is. Tony's eyes were extra serious this time. The last time Su Zaicheng saw such a look was when Tony knew that the aliens were about to invade, and he could tell at a glance that the follow-up was very serious. The serious Tony is hard to see. Once you see it, it means something big. Su Zaicheng nodded, and the conversation suddenly changed. I will also teach this guy a lesson. What? Tony was slightly stunned, and suddenly there was news that another house had been bombed, which seemed to be Mr. Hunter's house in front of him, and he said jokingly, Mr. Hunter, don't rob me. Each according to his own ability. After Su Zaicheng left a sentence, he sneaked into the shadow and left the ward. And after seeing Su Zaicheng leave, Tony's originally teasing expression gradually sank. Mandarin, if you dare to do something to people around me, then don't blame me for being merciless. If you can't even protect the people around you, what's the Iron Man? Su Zaicheng walked on the front foot, and Peebo came on the back foot. Tony stayed in the hospital with Pepper, next to Happy all night. By the time I knew that Happy's state had completely stabilized, it had already arrived the next morning. Tony, you go back and get some rest. Pepper was a little worried about Tony's health. She came here in the middle of the night, so she is not depressed now, But Tony is different, he has been here for a full night, and Tony has recently suffered from severe anxiety. If this goes on, the body will easily collapse. Okay. Tony nodded, looking tired. Fortunately, Su Zaicheng stabilized Harpy's situation, otherwise Tony might have stayed on. He stood up and let out a breath. Pepper, please. Ha, 770. Pi is our mutual friend. Pepper also stood up, sent Tony out of the ward, and kissed his chin. Go home and sleep. Tony nodded, looking at his beloved woman, feeling a little better. Definitely, this good mood was quickly broken. After he walked out of the hospital gate, a bunch of reporters lurking next to him seemed like flies smelling of excrement. Cough cough, it should be a hungry and thirsty man who saw a sexy beauty. Yes, I hope so. In short, the reporters rushed forward, and reporters from dozens of well-known newspapers and well-known TV stations quickly surrounded Tony, pointed their microphones at Tony, and talked in a hurry. We're waiting for Tony Stark to give us some reaction, his own reaction to it. Mr. Stark, sources tell us that all indications are that this is yet another terrorist attack by the Mandarin. Do you have any advice on that? Advertisement. There are all kinds of equipment. Camera, microphone. It's almost a slap in Tony's face. Originally, he didn't plan to take care of these reporters and chose to get in the car directly, but when he was about to get in the car, a word suddenly came out from the crowd. Mr. Stark, when will we kill this bastard? This is a middle-aged Caucasian blonde man holding a mobile phone, and he raised his eyebrows provocatively. Can we talk? Tony paused slightly as he was about to get into the car. At this moment, all the voices around stopped, only the sound of the camera shooting was still ringing. Tony looked directly at the reporter in front of him, suppressing the anger in his heart. Do you want to know? I have a holiday greeting for that Mandarin. I just figured out what to say. My name is Tony Stark, and I'm not afraid of you. You're a coward, so I have something to tell you. Tony took off his sunglasses and stared at the man in front of him. You are ready to die. I will kill you with my own hands. It's not about politics, it's just old-fashioned revenge, no Pentagon, just you and me. If you're really a man, remember my address. 10,880 Malibu Street, zip code 90265, I'm open for you. After finishing the sentence in one breath, Tony grabbed the cell phone from the man in front of him. Are you satisfied now? Without any hesitation, he directly smashed the phone. Sue me. After speaking, Tony chose to get in the car directly. Advertisement in the car, Tony heaved a sigh of relief. Being able to say these words has many disadvantages, and it is very likely to encounter terrible terrorist attacks and revenge, but it has an advantage for Tony, and it is the only good outsider. That's what makes him happy. After returning home to rest for a while, Pepper also came back. Tony didn't continue to rest, but immediately asked Fei Wisey to start looking for all the information on this Mandarin. And arrange the search within a range, find out all the places where the temperature has exceeded 3,000 degrees Celsius, and finally remove the places attacked by the Mandarin. Eventually, Tony set his sights on a place where a bomb suicide had occurred. Rose Hill, Tennessee. Beep. At this time, the bell rang suddenly. Why are there still people knocking on the door? Didn't I say to be on high alert? Tony patted the table helplessly. Please, I just threatened a terrorist. Who is it? I can't do anything about it. Who made you announce your address to the world's media? Jarvis answered. Tony went out to pick up the guests. Use the Mark 42 in the security system that comes with the villa to attack anyone who comes. In the end, I found out that this was a woman I had met in 1999 more than 10 years ago, the botanist, Maya Hansen. Tony thought that this old lover was here to continue his romantic relationship with him, so he was a little embarrassed. What was even more embarrassing was the collision with Pepper. Definitely, Pepper wasn't surprised, or rather, that Tony had such a one-night stand with a woman. Advertisement after all, Pepper had been friends with Tony before becoming his girlfriend in the end, and he was very clear about his past deeds. Hollywood did not know how many actresses were related to him. Pepper had been prepared to run into these women when he was dating Tony. Although she ended up fighting with Tony, Pepper thinks he should leave the villa. But Tony believes that in this villa are all his Mark armor, and only here can he receive the best protection. However, Maya Hansen saw some not-so-good pictures from the TV that was playing all the time. Because the TV channel was hacked again. What is shown above is the top-to-bottom survey of Tony's current villa at 5.6 from the air. Stop making noise. Let's take a look here first. Maya Hansen pointed at the picture on the TV awkwardly. What? The noisy and happy Tony and Pepper turned their heads at the same time. Just in time, A missile with a long exhaust was seen heading towards the living room. Call out. They felt bad and threw them out the window. Sure enough, he saw a missile close in front of his eyes, and his ears were filled with the roar of the missile piercing the air. At the moment, it was obviously too late to escape. Tony's heart is really screwed. I just put down my words and threatened people in the morning, and my house was blown up by a bomb not long after. Is Tony Stark shameless? Shet, get down, Pepper. Tony hurriedly yelled at his girlfriend, and without waiting for Pepper to react, he flew over, trying to throw her to the ground. As for Maya Hansen, whoever she is, please be blessed. Don't even think about it, you have to save your future wife first. However, before Tony could hug Pepper, the powerful bomb hit Tony's house. This house is a private villa of Tony. Rich people definitely have a lot of houses. Although this is Tony's Seaview villa, but more appropriate is his laboratory, studio. The upper 3 floors house the entertainment area, but even more hidden is the basement. That's where all of Tony's experiments come together. Mark 1 to 42 are all collected here. Even more high-tech stuff can be seen here. It can be seen that Tony regards this place as his home. Maybe this is the wedding room with Xiaojiao in the future. However, at the moment of the explosion, all this disappeared. That huge roar. The whole world fell silent. It's not that the world has stopped, but that all 3 of them are temporarily deaf in 28 moments. After all, the bomb exploded nearby, and the loud noise can be imagined. With the explosion, the bodies of Tony and Pepper were blasted into the air in an instant. Maya Hansen is worthy of being an intellectual. At the moment of the explosion, she also found a bunker, and tightly hugged the temple big velvet rabbit that was entrusted as a Christmas gift by Mi Gao. Advertisement on the other hand, Tony, Pepper, and Maya Hansen are faring much better. Come. In midair, Tony said the word with difficulty. At the same time, he pointed his wrist at little Pepper. As soon as the voice fell, I only heard it. Swish swish swish. Don't know where it came from. A squint, though, revealed that it was Tony's Mark 42 armor. Since, after the last battle with Loki, Tony deeply understands how important remote control is. Therefore, in the future research and development, Tony especially emphasized that Jarvis should equip all armors with remote operation and space retrieval devices. Even, the sensors are implanted in the limbs, just for convenience. It is also to avoid the last time when I was playing against Loki, I secretly borrowed a drink to brush up my cleverness and put on an operation bracelet, watching Mark 42. For some reason, the armor that was supposed to be worn on Tony's body turned around and flew onto Pepper. I saved you. Tony raised his eyebrows. Even at such a critical moment, he didn't forget to tease him. Seeing that his most beloved person was safe for the time being, Tony also heaved a sigh of relief. However, this is a missile explosion. How could it end so easily? Sure enough, a reinforced concrete slab fell towards the 2 of them. If they were hit by this blow, let alone death, it would be nice to leave the whole body with Tony's mortal body. Long story short, in fact, these things only happened in an instant, from the sound of the explosion, to the 2 being knocked into midair, to the moment when Pepper puts on the battle armor. The total time is 3 breaths. At the moment, Tony, in midair, there was no strength left to resist, and he could only watch the stone slab fall. Honey, watch out. Jarvis, advertisement. Receive. Fortunately, in times of crisis, Pepper ordered Jarvis in time. This artificial intelligence AI is much more useful than bodyguards at critical moments. Jarvis did not live up to the title of Tony's butler. Before the hostess finished speaking, he controlled Mark 42 and stood in front of Tony. Honey, I saved your life too. Hee. Sure enough, it's not that the whole family doesn't stay in the house. After getting along with Tony for a long time, even Xiaojiao became funny. Pepper, go save her, and escape. Quick, and you. Do not worry, the 2 parted with each other in agreement. Pepper ran out wearing a battle armor and pulled Maya Hansen, but the armed helicopter outside seemed not to let it go, only to hear a few more missiles fired in succession, and, every time every shot hit the support point of the house precisely, as if trying to completely destroy the house. Sir, Miss Pepper has escaped to a safe place. The voice of Jarvis sounded. Okay. Tony pointed with both hands, and the Mark 42 battle armor originally worn by Peebo came off piece by piece, and quickly flew towards the ruins. The helicopter seemed to be equipped with infrared heat-sensing Gatling bullets that shot at Tony accurately. Jarvis, I'm going to fight back. Sir, we are trying to debug it, this is just an armor engineering sample. Before Jarvis finished speaking, another missile attack came. The supporting points of the villa collapsed completely, and the whole house leaned towards the sea. Advertisement, Shiete. Tony is indeed a person who has experienced big scenes, and a palm cannon was thrown out, just in time for the helicopter outside. Get a. However, the house couldn't hold up anymore, together with Tony turned into ruins and fell into the sea constantly. The originally impregnable villa turned out to be so fragile that a 3-story villa that was as large as a football field collapsed. Just now, an incomparably luxurious presidential villa was destroyed like this. It became a ruin, and even this piece of sea area was also created by the explosion of the villa. The ruins were boiling, and on the only remaining helicopter, looking at the stark villa that had been razed to the ground, several people looked at each other and smiley, turned the nose of the plane, and disappeared at the sea level without looking back. Their mission is not to destroy Tony, but more like a demonstration. Don't you have a way to reveal your home address? Are you provocative? Then I'll blow you up. Let people all over the world see how Iron Man, who was admired by everyone, was knocked down from the altar. What Stark Group, what Tony Stark, what Iron Man. But is that so vulnerable? Maybe this is the criminal mind of these people. At the same time, the whole world was boiled by the scene in front of the TV. Tony's villa was bombed. Tony is dead? Iron Man is dead? Superhero is dead? Immediately, the newspaper news that Iron Man was killed was spread all over the United States. However, they didn't know that when all the dust settled, an inconspicuous exhaust rose through the ruins after the attack helicopter left. A cloud of dust covered the sky. Long after Harpy was bombed, Tien Hu made a plan. That's why Tony's survey of the city has places above 3,000 degrees Celsius. Originally, Tony planned to go to Tennessee after today, and even let Jarvis record this place in the itinerary.